Chapter 331. While Lin Ke was enduring the pain, Fang Zhirong was not relaxed at all. For this match, he had watched many videos of powerful dance stage fighters from Shushan study and was deeply impressed by their terrifying combo moves. Just now, when the sole of his foot was injured and he lost his balance, he subconsciously thought of this. Therefore, he used the scorpion tail needle in advance to avoid falling into the brink of failure. His original plan was to use this move of the plague sect at the critical moment and take advantage of Lin Ke's sudden pain to seize the opportunity to win. Now that he had exposed it so early, not only did he lose the element of surprise, but also caused a great burden to his body. It was all because he had been provoked by the scorpion tail needle, so the fight was more risky. Fang Zhirong was quite annoyed. He restrained his emotions, bent down again, and zigzagged around Lin Quebec. He did not attack and did not give his opponent a chance to use force concentration to relieve the pain. Being distracted by the pain would consume a fighter's energy. He intended to prolong this process as long as possible to weaken Lin Ke until his opponent got used to the pain. While zigzagging, he was slightly limping because the sole of his right foot had been hit by the earth fissure, leaving bruises and pain. If it were not for his shoes, he would have been seriously injured. In the short fight, both sides had suffered losses. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the commentator in the live broadcast room, Zhang He, explained in detail the few terms he had shouted before. Dark poison force is one of the core forces of the dark sect. It's very poisonous. No matter where it hits the opponent, it will cause a snake-like effect. As for the symptoms after being poisoned, it will depend on which aspect Fang Zhirong focuses on. The dark poison force practiced by different dark sect fighters is different. Some will cause hallucinations, some will cause shortness of breath, and some will cause dizziness. Scorpion tail needle is a dance stage move of the plague sect. It's part of the incomplete version and can produce pain that is several times greater than the original damage. The host was stunned when he heard this. He gasped and said, "Senior Zhang, is this true?" But Fang Zhirong has no supernatural ability. How did he practice this force and this move? For a dance stage martial artist without supernatural ability, before he entered the inhuman level and his root pulp changed, the force he cultivated depended on the cooperation of his own muscles, fascia, 5 viscera, 6 bowels, and spirit to create a certain effect by producing special waves. For example, a normal dance stage martial artist of the ice sect couldn't have such a strong, frost force, as Lu Cheng, let alone be able to release it. But according to Senior Zhang, the impact of Fang Zhirong's force and moves were beyond the normal level. Zhang He laughed and said, he must have used the corresponding medicine to help him practice, just like how some fighters practice poison palm. This kind of force and moves can only be exerted by touching the opponent in a fixed position. It will be weaker and weaker each time, so he has to practice it again after the competition. Moreover, it is very burdensome to the body and can cause a lot of damage. Some break through the limit of the human body slowly, while some are not at the same level. Only when the root pulp is affected and changes corresponding to it can one slowly recover. While he was talking, Fang Zhirong saw that Lin Ke had already adapted to the pain, so he stopped moving and moved closer to him. He changed his moves and attacked with his fists and legs, followed by the catch, and watched in front and suddenly behind. This was the martial art he had become famous for when he was a professional ninth pin fighter. It was derived from the plague sect's chronic illness entanglement, unique skill, attack of 9 diseases. The word entanglement was prominent, and it could be used so easily that the opponent could only barely parry and not get rid of it. It was as if the opponent was suffering from various diseases and could only wait to be cured. Bang, 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 bang. Fang Zhirong had been aiming at Lin Ke's right hand and didn't give him the best chance to counterattack with force concentration. For a moment, he had the upper hand, which made Mu Jinyan and Yan Zhika show the same worry. After calculating the approximate time when the pain would subside, he calmed down and suddenly showed a flaw. Lin Ke waited for a long time and stopped hesitating. He took a deep breath and let the pain condense into a point along with his chi and blood and spirit. Boom! Like a volcano erupting, the Dan Qi gushed out. Lin Ke's right arm swelled, and he clenched his fist like a hammer and fiercely swung it at his opponent. He tore the air in the air like an airplane flying through the clouds. They were too close to each other, so he didn't have enough time to prepare for meteor burst. Facing this, Fang Zhirong didn't panic. He hugged his opponent and sat firmly on the golden throne. Bang! He took half a step forward and his body grew a little taller. He swung his fist majestically and said, "Sky-burning fire." Bang! The two fists froze in midair. Fang Zhirong's feet sank into the ground. His martial arts shoes, which had long been damaged, were torn into pieces and scattered in different directions. Lin Ke, on the other hand, didn't move at all. He was about to use double explosion to give his opponent another, earth-splitting, attack. At this time, Lin Ke suddenly felt a strange suction from his opponent's fist, which slowed down the withdrawal of his right hand. Magnetic sect? He thought. He took a deep breath and shook his muscles. Not only did he stop the withdrawal, but he also took the opportunity to punch forward. He used the yin-yang twist to attack Fang Zhirong with the help of the suction force. Seeing this, Fang Zhirong was not surprised but happy. His face reddened, and he shook and twisted his wrist. The suction force suddenly changed into a repulsive force, which slowed Lin Ke's attack. It was this delay that made Fang Zhirong's body explode. It was like there were turbines running crazily. He controlled his body and changed the magnetic field in the subtle parts of his body. They stimulated and influenced each other, superimposing a terrifying explosive force. Magnetic sect, rotation of poles, magnetic field rotation. With a boom, he punched and blasted the air in front of him. He blasted towards Lin Ke with a crushing force. He didn't use force concentration for this attack, but it was almost as powerful as a dance stage explosion. When one reached the inhuman stage, one's control was stronger, and one's body had changed. Many visualizations were no longer necessary. This move could be used together with force concentration to double the effect of a dance stage explosion. Of course, the burden was not just doubled. Fang Zhirong used drugs to train his strength, and his body was damaged. The number of times he could use force concentration was less than a normal dance stage, and he could only use double explosion once. Therefore, he practiced this move painstakingly to make up for his shortcomings. However, under normal circumstances, it was difficult to have enough preparation time to use this move freely in a battle. But now, he wanted to use this move to consume Lin Ke's dance stage explosion. He wanted his opponent, who was still worried about the next match, to become impatient and make mistakes during the battle, giving him an opportunity to take advantage of. As for himself, he wasn't in a hurry at all. With Peng Liyun behind him, no one would be in a hurry. In such a short distance, Fang Zhirong's punch was so powerful that Lin Ke couldn't dodge it. He had to either use force concentration to take it head-on, or be knocked out of his stance and retreat. He was in danger. Lin Ke's eyes grew deeper. He raised both his hands, and his wrists were gentle. He pulled and pushed. He chose not to use the power of his Dan force at this moment. Bam! Fang Zhirong's fist seemed to be stuck in a quagmire. Under the pull and push of his opponent's palms, it lost some momentum and couldn't release all of its power. Bam bam bam! Lin Ke took 3 steps back. His center of gravity was shaky, and his body wasn't nimble enough. Now is the time. Fang Zhirong seized the opportunity and strode forward. He stretched out his right hand and grasped Lin Ke's left arm accurately. A faint ink light flashed and poured into Lin Ke's arm. He finally had a chance to use his dark poison force to his heart's content. Seeing that he had succeeded, Fang Zhirong was delighted. He was about to attack again when he saw that Lin Ke's eyes were calm, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Lin Ke took a deep breath. His body trembled violently, and all of his muscles seemed to be undulating. He stretched out his right hand and spread out his 5 fingers. The tip of his hand was also black. G family's yin-yang twist. I'll return your dark poison force with my dark poison force. With a snap of his fingers, Lin Ke poured half of the borrowed dark poison force into Fang Zhirong's body and returned it to his opponent. Fang Zhirong's chest tightened, and he felt short of breath. Although he was resistant to poison, taking so much at once would still affect him. As for Lin Ke, his yin-yang twist was still far from being able to completely neutralize his opponent's force. More than half of the poison still remained in his body, and his qi was even weaker. However, he was already prepared. After his successful attack, he immediately used force concentration to reduce all the negative effects. Taking advantage of the fact that Fang Zhirong had yet to recover, he exploded his human body Big Dan. After accumulating his momentum, he leaned forward and swung his arm. After expanding his muscles, he quickly rushed forward again. Boom! The air between the two seemed to explode as a violent shockwave surged toward Fang Zhirong. Fighting Sec's 27th move, Meteor Burst. Just as Lin Ke was about to punch, Fang Zhirong's pupils shrank. He didn't dare to be careless and quickly used force concentration to condense his qi and blood in his dantian. He raised his hand to block the violent impact. But once Lin Ke started his combo, it wouldn't be so simple. He hugged and let go, and his left foot suddenly stomped down. Fighting Sec's earth cracking, double explosion. Bang! A muffled sound came from within as the ground cracked. Fang Zhirong didn't care about his feet. His feet hurt, and his body swayed again. He had to use force concentration to circulate his qi and blood to stabilize his center of gravity. At this time, Lin Ke's foot stomped down, and he was already close to Fang Zhirong's body. His arm opened and closed, and he grabbed Fang Zhirong's arm. He bent his elbow and pressed it against Fang Zhirong's joint, making it temporarily impossible for Fang Zhirong to use force. Then Lin Ke took a deep breath and visualized the scene of a falling meteor. He let go of his dantian and jumped up, pressing Fang Zhirong against the ground. Triple explosion. Fighting Sec's 10th move, Death Calamity. Bang! Fang Zhirong was dizzy from the fall and lost the ability to fight back. Lin Ke lowered his body, loosened his arm, and with a spring of his arm, pressed against Fang Zhirong's throat. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, Lin Ke wins. Songqing University Martial Arts Club won the first match. Hearing this, Mu Jinyan immediately jumped up and cheered, "You're right. Hooray! Lin Ke is awesome." Lu Cheng, Yan Zhika, and the others were also happy, but they weren't so excited. The match was not over yet, and there were still many difficulties ahead. Chapter 332. In the live broadcast room of the video website, the commentator, Zhang He, was full of praise for Lin Ke's attack. If you look at the three moves separately, they're just a so-so. The application of force is more important than the cleverness of the moves. But the connection between them. The connection is just right. One move after another, leaving no chance for Fang Zhirong to escape. Lin Ke seems to have grasped some of the essence of the combo of the fighting sect. In the end, Fang Zhirong couldn't fight back. Firstly, his arm was caught. Secondly, his joints were pressed. Thirdly, Lin Ke must have sent a corresponding force into his body, which affected him and made him unable to use his full strength. Otherwise, how could this combo be called death? When Lin Ke grabbed Fang Zhirong, pay attention to his fingers. There's also the performance of dark poison force. This should be a unique skill derived from the shifting stars of the fighting sect. If I'm not wrong, it's probably the yin-yang twist of the Ji family. Risky, a little risky. With Lin Ke's realm, it's a little risky. Lin Ke held back at the end. If he didn't hold back, with Fang Zhirong's current physique, he would have lost half of his life. If he was unlucky, his spine would have hit a sharp stone. Then he would have been paralyzed, Fang Zhirong too. Sigh, how should I say this? Others are incoherent once they succeed. But he got it in one move and forgot to be cautious. He wanted to win too much and cared too much. Listening to old Master Zhang's explanation, the bullet screen floated by. Damn, Lin Ke was so cool when he grabbed Fang Zhirong and pressed him down. My blood is boiling from watching this. When Fang Zhirong's back hit the arena with a bang, I was so excited that I was burning. This is a competition, this is martial arts. Those who are burning should go away. Me too. But I'm supporting Shanbei. When Fang Zhirong hit the ground, I, who am familiar with romance novels, thought of a word, a ravaged rag doll. Sigh, looks like Fang Zhirong is falling behind. He's out of the competition for the heavenly son of the age. He can't even beat Lin Quebec. What a piece of trash. Damn, is this a fake competition? Just look at the odds. I supported him so much. He's so useless. The audience couldn't hide their disappointment either. No one wanted to see Lin Ke lose, but as supporters of the defending champion, they had experienced the test of battle time and time again, so they restrained their emotions and sincerely applauded Lin Quebec. They applauded for his performance just now, and for the last hit that made their adrenaline rush. They tolerated Mu Jinyan's excitement and cheers to the greatest extent. Yan Shaoling was stunned and suspected that Shanbei did not have many supporters. Most of the people present were hired extras. His demeanor is not bad. I can let myself loose later. She thought silently. Amidst the applause, the Shanbei students subconsciously turned their eyes to the home team seats, waiting for the king to pick up his scepter and ascend to his throne to appease the disappointment in everyone's hearts. Ever since he entered university, he had never really failed. Peng Liyun cast his gaze towards the ring and unhurriedly unzipped his clothes. He took off his winter coat, revealing the martial arts suit underneath. Shanbei's martial arts suit was the traditional pure white, which clashed with Songqing's white with black edges. This way, the audience would not be able to tell who was who during the fight, which was not good for the broadcast. Therefore, the defending champion showed his elegance and wore a spare black suit. Peng Liyun's black suit made his skin look like white jade, with a faint glow. His whole temperament was cleaner and cleaner, like a god or an immortal. On the chest of his martial arts suit, there was an embroidered pattern of 2 crowns, which symbolized that Shanbei had won 2 national university martial arts competitions championships. 2 years ago, there was none. Under the watchful eyes of the audience, Peng Liyun flicked his clothes, collected his thoughts, and stood up with a focused gaze. The moment he stood up, the audience went wild. Countless voices merged into one shout, "Champion!" On the arena, Lin Ke let go of Fang Zhirong and took 2 steps back. He opened his mouth and breathed in big gulps of thin air. This was because he had consumed a lot of energy and was tired. It was also because of the remnants of the dark poison force that was still affecting his body. Dark poison force was poisonous. Unlike shock and pain, which could be completely neutralized by force concentration, there were bound to be side effects. It needed to be completely eliminated through the body's metabolism. If one encountered a martial artist who had mastered this kind of force and didn't have a strong enough physique, they might need to be treated with medicine to truly recover. When Lin Ke did not use force concentration to deal with Fang Zhirong's rotation of 2 poles, he already had the idea of taking the risk of resisting the dark poison force and using the yin-yang twist to surprise his opponent. The reason for this was that he felt that the combination of the dark sect and the plague sect was strange and poisonous. If he was not careful, he would fall into the trap and lose the match. It was better to take the initiative to create an opportunity and grasp the victory in the palm of his hand. Even if he had to pay a high price, he would not hesitate. If he wanted to defeat an opponent like Fang Zhirong, it was impossible to do so without paying a price. Although Geyser had specifically told him to not be hasty before entering the arena, Lin Ke still believed in his own observation and judgment when it came to performing on the spot. Fang Zhirong struggled to stand up. His eyes were full of anger. He was angry at his opponent, but even more angry at himself. If he had not been happy after the dark poison force had entered Lin Ke's body and had not planned to take the opportunity to attack again, he would have immediately dodged like a normal dark sect member to open up a distance to prevent the opponent's fierce counterattack and wait for the toxins to fully take effect. There was no possibility of being hurt by the unique skill derived from shifting stars. In that case, not only would Lin Ke have to use one Dan stage explosion to reduce the toxins, but he would also be weakened to a certain extent in the future. Then, he would have more or less secured victory. Regret and pain were like a poisonous snake gnawing at Fang Zhirong's soul. He did not care about politeness. He turned around and stumbled out of the arena. The anger in his body seemed to be about to be vented at any time. He could already imagine what kind of comments would appear on the internet. At the thought of this, he felt more sullen, more regretful, more angry, and more painful. When he met Peng Liyun on the way, Fang Zhirong was completely immersed in his own world and did not notice him at all. Or rather, he did not want to notice him. They brushed past each other and did not interact. Peng Liyun took a light breath and shook off the little emotions in his heart. He walked to the front of the stone steps with a smile and stepped onto the arena step by step. He did not release his imposing manner. Just the various halos on his body made Lin Ke subconsciously hold his breath. A man's name was like a tree's shadow. The heavenly son of the age naturally had an intimidating aura. In the guest team seats, Lu Qing, Yan Zhika, and the others also focused their expressions. They restrained their joy and became serious and silent. Lin Ke had performed a force concentration and then completed the triple explosion. There was still the influence of the dark poison force in his body. How much fighting strength did Lin Ke have left? How much could he shake this heavenly son of the age? In the oppressive atmosphere, only Geezer Sure was nagging to himself. Lin Ke is also a person who does not listen to reason. I told him not to rush, but he just had to rush. If Fang Zhirong was not agitated by him and also became anxious and wanted to win more, he would have lost. Sigh, he does not listen to the advice of an old man. Sigh, sigh, sigh. He actually did not suffer in front of him. Peng Liyun and Lin Ke stood on both sides of the referee amidst the shouts of "champion" that filled the arena. The referee did not delay and announced loudly, "Second round, start." The sound of "start" was still echoing. The position of his hands did not change, but the path he came from was forcibly changed into an arc and was no longer the same, just enough to avoid the attack. Peng Liyun pressed down with his hands and clasped his fingers. Lin Ke's body suddenly became numb and stiffened, almost collapsing. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Second round, Peng Liyun wins." 3 moves, Peng Liyun wins. Lin Ke regained his composure and turned his head around. He looked at his opponent with a complicated gaze and said in a low, muffled voice, "Thank you. Thank you for not underestimating me and going all out." Peng Liyun smiled and nodded. He did not look like he had just fought a match. In the away team seats, Lu Qing exhaled and took off his jacket. The scenes of the past 4 months of hard training and the discussions with Yan Zhika flashed in his mind. Is it finally going to start? Chapter 333. Is it finally going to start? I've been waiting for more than 4 months. I even gave up the ranking event just for this moment. Lu Qing reached out and held Yan Zhika's delicate hand. He stood up quickly and looked over the path of glory to the arena. Only then did the surrounding audience react. They all sighed in satisfaction, praising the king of Flying Bird Hall for defeating his opponent so easily. They shouted in unison and sincerely called out, "King! Number 1. Number 1 in the University Martial Arts Circle." Hearing their praise, Mu Jinyan couldn't help but stomp her feet. She looked at Lin Ke with pity and bit her lip. So angry. You bully our Lin Ke who just finished a fight. On the interface of the live broadcast website, there was a fierce argument on the bullet screen. Only 3 moves. Lazai just warmed up. Lin Ke is just a so-so. He's not qualified to be a candidate for the heavenly son of the age. Peng Liyun is indeed a true genius. So what if it's only 3 moves? Lin Ke just defeated Fang Zhirong and consumed a lot of energy. What's more, He's still under the influence of the dark poison force. He's 2 levels lower than Peng Lian. Losing in 3 moves doesn't mean anything. Stubborn. Didn't he say that he's 2 levels lower than Peng Lian? Is he still a candidate for the heavenly son of the age? That's right. Lin Ke is 1 year younger than Peng Lian. Isn't it normal for him to be weaker than him? He'll catch up sooner or later. Catch up? Can he reach 2 levels in 1 year? Can he reach the level of 6th pin by this time next year? I think it's hard, no, almost impossible. There were many viewers who supported Peng Lian, but there were also many who supported Lin Quebec. A young martial artist who was strong, handsome, and cold would always attract people's love. The 2 sides were arguing fiercely for a while, and the bullet screen almost completely covered the video above. Senior Zhang, what do you think? Is the gap between Lin Ke and Peng Lian so big? The host seized the opportunity and threw a question to the commentator. Zhang He chuckled and said, there is definitely a gap. Peng Lian is at least a year ahead of Lin Quebec. If Lin Ke had caught up with him, then he wouldn't be called the Heaven's Pride of the era. As for how big the gap is, we'll have to wait until Lin Ke fights with Peng Lian in perfect condition to know. As for this battle, if Lin Ke didn't go all out, he wouldn't have lost in 3 moves. Do you mean Lin Ke made a wrong choice? Too impatient and risky? The host keenly asked in return. Zhang He shook his head and said, it's hard to say. I'm inclined to think that Lin Ke was greatly affected by the dark poison force. He consumed a lot of energy and his physical strength was severely reduced. His resistance was weakened. If he had used other methods, he might not have been able to hold on for long. It was better to take a risk and see if he could find an opportunity to give Peng Lian a set of consecutive moves. Even if he couldn't win, he could at least tire his opponent. But who knew that Peng Lian's absolute reaction was getting more and more powerful? He was able to sense the malice and the subtle preparations of the body and made the best response. After hearing what you said, I think Peng Lian is so strong that he has no friends. Lu Cheng is also in danger. With the strength of 6th pin close to the inhuman stage, the battle just now was really just a warm-up. The host sighed. At this time, Lu Cheng first high-fived Yan Zhika, then turned around and waved his fist at Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others. Come on. Kai Zhongming and the others clenched their fists and responded. Without further delay, Lu Cheng was about to leave his seat and go to the arena. At this time, Yan Zhika bit her pink lips and suddenly shouted in a low voice, Cheng, yes? Lu Cheng turned to look at his girlfriend in confusion. Yan Zhika's eyes were bright and firm. She slightly dodged and reached out her delicate hand to hold Lu Cheng's finger. Then she pursed her lips and summoned up the courage to say, darling, come on. In public, surrounded by a sea of spectators, behind and around her were the eyes and ears of her teammates of the martial arts club. Yan Zhika's pretty face was red with embarrassment, but she still finished the sentence without hesitation. As for whether she would be laughed at, whether it would be filmed, or whether there would be other effects, she didn't want to think about it and didn't care. At this time, it was more important to support and encourage Cheng. Lu Cheng was surprised at first, then showed a surprised smile. He held her soft hand and nodded heavily with surging warmth. Without saying anything, he turned around and walked to the arena. His right thumb rubbed the ring on his left palm. I'll do my best. On the way, he saw Lin Ke walking towards him, gasping for breath. Lin Ke stopped in his tracks. His eyes were filled with the pain and unwillingness that Lu Cheng remembered so deeply. Even though he lost to the powerful Peng Lian, even though he had defeated Fang Zhirong, he still felt that he didn't do well enough and that he could do better. That kind of painful emotion rolled and burned in his usually deep eyes. Just when Lu Cheng thought that his brother-in-law would say, I'm sorry, like he did when he beat up Wenxing's school, Lin Ke took the initiative to reach out and bumped fists with him. He said in a hoarse voice, Come on. Come on. Carry my pain and carry everyone's hope. Come on. Don't be affected by my emotions, come on. Lu Cheng exhaled and walked past Lin Quebec step by step, he approached the stone steps. His body was adjusting, his momentum was gathering, and his fighting spirit was rising. He hadn't fought with all his strength for more than 4 months. He was still not used to the feeling of bursting out to the extreme. Clap. Clap. Muffled sounds kept coming out of his body, as if a machine that had not been used for a long time was removing rust, applying lubrication, and adjusting accurately. When he ascended the arena and stood before Peng Liyun, his entire body's imposing aura erupted and was sharp like the edge of a weapon, and he didn't have the slightest bit of idleness and unfamiliarity. Lu Qing stared at Peng Liyun's smiling eyes and watched his leisurely starting posture. Lu Qing also got into his stance, with his left hand low and his right hand high. Then let's fight. Then burn to your heart's content. The referee raised his right hand and was about to swing it down. In front of the computer screen, Brahman unconsciously tightened her 2 braids and forgot about the snacks beside her. She couldn't care less about posting on the forum. She focused on her eyes and froze her nervousness. It's starting, it's starting. I've been looking forward to this battle for more than 4 months. Unparalleled Dragon King posted a toast emoji in the live broadcast post of Lu Cheng's fan forum. Big sister, it's about to begin. Boss, what a coincidence. Senior sister, you're finally here. In the office of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College, a group of people stared at the screen from the corner of their eyes and looked towards the door. They shouted, half cheered and half joked. Shinyu gasped for breath and smiled gently to the girl next to her. Ignore them and go in. Peng Liyun and Lu Qing are about to start the battle. The girl was of medium height with straight shoulder-length hair, a straight nose and big eyes. She looked like a real doll and didn't look dangerous at all. But who would have thought that she was Ren Li of Kongtong, who was on par with Peng Liyun? In response to the teasing of her team members, she smiled embarrassedly as she entered the door. I got lost again. Sorry to keep you waiting. Huh, Shaoli, I think I have no sense of direction. No, I'm not a sense of direction. I got lost because of you. Chindigua, another leading player of Capital College, spread his hands and laughed. The cute girl, Jiang Kongchan, covered her mouth and giggled. Senior sister, I think you have the potential to be the heroine. If you go to the wrong hotel room one day and enter the room of the overbearing president, a romantic story will begin. Ren Li pulled a chair and sat down. She answered calmly, overbearing president? 1 punch is enough. If it doesn't work, 2 punches. While speaking, she looked at the screen and saw the referee's right hand waving down. In the stands, Yan Shaoling held her breath and forgot to take out the banner she brought, blow the trumpet, and cheer. In the seats of the home team, Fang Zhirong covered his head with a white towel and didn't look at the match. Su Wanyan changed his cross-legged posture and prayed subconsciously. Junior brother Peng, don't leave that monster to me. In the seats of the away team, Yan Zhika, Lin Hua, and the others all stood up and looked at the ring nervously. No one sat down and no one spoke. Only Shi Jiangwo was calm. After all, he was experienced and knowledgeable. Start. The referee finally waved down his right hand. Lu Qing felt the ground shake when the sound was still in his ears. Almost at the same time, he saw Peng Liyun appear in front of him with his clothes sticking close to his body. The flash attack movement was worthy of its reputation. Lu Qing didn't know how to deal with it until he met it face to face. He adjusted his muscles and visualized a mighty god with the head of a beast and the body of a human standing on a red dragon to suppress the violence of the flame in his body. He leaned forward, lowered his left hand, shook his wrist, and threw out a red flame that was moving close to the ground. The red flame contained a dangerous aura. It was the modified version of the 26th movement of the ice sect, ice burning, flame burning. The flame was close to the ground and quickly rushed to Peng Liyun. Once it touched the ground, it would immediately explode and spurt upward, burning everything in sight. At this moment, Peng Liyun stopped almost without inertia. His muscles and fascias bulged and rubbed against the air at high speed, creating an explosion. Bang! There seemed to be thunder on the ground. Strong wind swept around Peng Liyun and suddenly rolled up the flame, leading it to move in advance. Shang-Chi knew steps, dipper step. Peng Liyun had practiced this footwork to the level of thunder and dipper step. With thunder and dipper step, he seemed to be able to communicate with the heaven and invite the gods. Boom! The ball of flame that Lu Cheng had shaken out exploded and shot upward. It happened to be half a foot away from Peng Liyun, illuminating his face in flickering light. Of course, Lu Cheng didn't think he could hurt the heavenly son of the era with one move. As soon as the flame burning was released, his body followed. The brutal blizzard didn't stop and didn't stop. In just this short exchange, the audience in front of the computer screen was stunned. A thought suddenly appeared in their minds. This was a little like a battle between physical invulnerability experts. It was like watching a battle between the Dragon King and the Warrior Sage. Fire and thunder, passion and ferocity. Chapter 334. After a moment of stunned silence, the bullet screen was flooded with all kinds of content, including the scene they had just seen. When did Lu Cheng's supernatural ability of fire become so strong? He seems to have mastered some kind of fire force. That move should be the modified version of ice burning? Sure enough, a scholar who has been away for 3 days has to be looked at with new eyes. Tisk tsk, that's awesome. This match is indeed worth looking forward to. Just as these exclamations appeared at the same time, there was a new change in the situation on the field. Lu Cheng threw out flame burning and pounced forward. When the flame was ignited by Peng Liyun's dancing dipper invulnerability, it burned up without hitting the target and lit up their faces. In his mind, he visualized the magnificent scene of a surging river frozen for thousands of miles. It was a pure and natural scene. As soon as this scene appeared, his muscles, tendons, and internal organs changed accordingly. The cold current turned into a tide, surging violently. This was not the end. The frozen river painting flashed and the sky was pulled closer. Thunderclouds rolled and rumbled, spreading outward. Lu Cheng transferred the force from his toes to his back. He shook out his right arm, which expanded into a stick, and swung it down. Thunder Roar Zen, severe warning. This was not his modified move, but the original simplified version of physical invulnerability. After he entered the dance stage, his ability to control had improved substantially, and his spirit had also made a breakthrough. Besides, he had learned the swordsman formula and finally mastered the original severe warning. The stick swung down, deafening. The flames that leaped up between the two of them flickered and were quickly extinguished. Peng Liyun's eyes reflected Lu Cheng's right fist that was rapidly smashing towards him. His eyes were filled with excitement. He made 2 visualizations in his mind and fixed them on a cyan jade talisman suspended in the void. This jade talisman was written with a few complicated characters. They looked like intertwining lightning lines, sizzling with silvery white light. At the last moment, the lines suddenly became clear. Yin and Yang stimulated and overlapped with each other. This was a change exclusive to Peng Liyun. His eyes shone brightly, condensing into 2 electric balls. He straightened his body, every muscle in his body bulging with blood, as if he was the incarnation of the thunder god. Using his fists as a hammer, he swung them up fiercely to meet Lu Cheng's roar. The 11th move of the Thunder Sect, a simplified unique skill of physical invulnerability, Thunder Seal. Bam! The 2 fists froze in midair, and a gust of wind blew. Peng Liyun's eyes lost focus for a moment, as if he was lost in the fierce battle. A layer of white mist condensed on his arms and outside of his martial arts suit, and his hair was also dyed with frost. Lu Cheng felt as if he had touched a dangerous power source with his bare hands. His whole body was numb, his ears were full of buzzing sounds, and his hair stood on end. He lost control of his muscles and started to tremble. His internal organs seemed to be affected and were in disorder. Peng Liyun and Lu Cheng stood there in a daze. The scene seemed to have been paused. The students and the audience in front of the computer screen were stunned. If the scene was not zoomed in, showing the frost on Peng Liyun's body and Lu Cheng's hair, many people would have suspected that there was something wrong with their eyes or their internet connection. It was said that both Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun had mastered simplified unique skills of physical invulnerability. Is this the result of a head-on collision? Who will recover first? Awesome! The younger generation will surpass us in time. The commentator, Zhang He, sighed. When he was at Lu Cheng's age, he didn't have so many terrifying skills. No, not to mention now, even 5 or 10 years later, he still didn't master any simplified moves of physical invulnerability. I haven't seen Lu Cheng's move, so I don't know what it is called. I can only guess that it is a combination of the ice sect force and tremor punch. Peng Liyun's move is called Thunder Seal. Before the inhuman stage, if you don't have the supernatural ability of thunder, the effect of your move will be much weaker. But Peng Liyun made some changes and improved the power of his Thunder Seal. It is only a little weaker than the original version. What a genius! Zhang He explained to the audience. Peng Liyun was a pure martial artist without any supernatural ability. One of them was close to the inhuman stage and had a monstrous physical quality. The other had a powerful supernatural ability, and the simplified moves of physical invulnerability were even more powerful. In the end, they recovered from the stiffness almost at the same time. One of them regained the spirit in his eyes, and the other regained control of his muscles. Of course, almost didn't mean they were the same. Lu Cheng had awakened his supernatural ability for the second time, practiced the swordsman formula internally, and practiced the dance stage. His physical quality had changed qualitatively. Although there was still a gap between him and Peng Liyun, it wasn't that much weaker. Lu Cheng recovered earlier than Peng Liyun. He took a step forward and approached Peng Liyun. He bounced his hands and shook his elbows and wrists. Mental stimulation hit 7 spots on Peng Liyun's body before the move. He hid the strength of his fascia and muscles, waiting for the final moment when the direction of the attack was determined. At the same time, a glittering white light was ejected from Lu Cheng's hands and spread around, turning into a frost fog made of ice crystals. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Every ice crystal was vibrating due to the vibrations, which interfered with Peng Liyun's hearing and caused him to feel a tingling sensation, which affected his absolute reaction. The white frost fog made him see things vaguely. The 13th move of the ice sect, Snow Cover. When a normal dance stage fighter of the ice sect used this move, it wouldn't be as magical as Lu Cheng's. They could only influence the outside world with their force to lower the temperature, create fog, and interfere with the enemy's judgment. They could only determine the real target of the attack at the last moment, which minimized the effect of absolute reaction. In other words, when the fighter felt the pain, he could only block the attack in a hurry because of the danger. This was a very complicated move. Lu Cheng had practiced hard for more than 3 months before he could master it. In the frost fog, Lu Cheng kept moving his hands, holding back his force. Suddenly, his hip muscles tightened and his right foot kicked out silently, aiming for Peng Liyun's ankle. Both of them were so close to each other that Peng Liyun's absolute reaction would almost land on him with this kick. In the vast snowy sky, the cold rises from the feet. This was the true meaning of snow cover. However, the changes between the feint and the real were never done step by step. When some ice sect fighters used this move, they would use the kick as the feint and the hand as the real, making it impossible to guard against. However, before Lu Cheng's right foot kicked out, Peng Liyun had already straightened his tailbone and was about to direct the force to his leg. He seemed to have sensed the malice coming from under his foot. Bam! Lu Cheng's low kick was followed by his left foot, as if they had practiced it thousands of times. He also shook his right arm and stabbed forward like a big spear. Bam! Lu Cheng was much weaker than Peng Liyun in terms of strength. His right foot was kicked back, and his whole body leaned forward involuntarily. It seemed that he was about to stumble and fall towards Peng Liyun, colliding with the spear in his right arm. At the critical moment, Lu Cheng quickly moved his spine and changed his center of gravity like Mercury. He forcibly maintained his balance and circulated his qi and blood, using force concentration on his lower abdomen to deal with the fierce attack of his opponent who had lost the initiative. Peng Liyun's eyes were still shining. He looked very excited. His qi, blood, force, spirit, and all kinds of feelings were condensed into one point, driving his right arm to swing back. Bam! Their dantian qi gushed out. One of them swung his right fist upward like a god holding a thunder hammer. The other tightened the muscles on his elbows, wrists, and other parts of his body. He pulled back his arm and shot out a fist with bulging veins like a bow. Bam! Every punch landed on their flesh, causing the greenish-black color to wriggle. Their muscles, bones, veins, and blood vessels all had a slight deformation. The deep sound awakened the ancient factors hidden in the audience's body, causing them to secrete adrenaline and their blood to boil. Crack! A spider web appeared under Lu Cheng's feet. Lu Cheng was a little slower, so he shook his body and took a step back. Peng Liyun followed him forward, making a strange visualization in his mind. He raised both of his fists and punched out continuously. It was so fast that it was like a machine gun was firing. Modern Xingyi, machine fist. Bam! 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 The audience heard the sound of Peng Liyun's fascia contracting and stretching, and the opening and closing of his joints, as if there was a machine running coldly and continuously. Bam! Bam! This. Li Mao and others saw that Peng Liyun's fists were almost leaving afterimages. They felt that if they were in Lu Cheng's position, they would not be able to keep up with the machine fists shooting, even if they were defending from the inside and needed less distance to move. Lin Kei's eyes deepened and he clenched his fists as he stared at the ring. It was as if he had just seen the heavenly son of heaven clearly. He felt that every sound was knocking on his heart. Yen Jika forgot to breathe. Her heart was hanging, and a thin layer of sweat was secreted into her clenched fists. However, she was not as panicked as the others. Brahman and Yen Shaoling also held their breaths, praying silently. Machine fist. The guest commentator, Zhang He, shouted the name of Peng Liyun's kung fu. In modern Xingyi, gun finger and catapult body movements were the simplest, blast punch was slightly more difficult, and machine fist required almost sixth pin control ability and reaction speed to master. Once used, the fist was as fast as a torrent of bullets, making the opponent unable to keep up with the rhythm. The opponent could block a few, but not dozens or hundreds. Zhang He looked at the screen and quickly reminded the audience, "Don't pay attention to the hand. Look at Peng Liyun's footwork." If the machine fist didn't change and only hit the same spot, the opponent in a defensive state could simply wave his arms to parry. Since there was no need to think and the movement distance was very short, the opponent could keep up with the rhythm and defend steadily. Therefore, the essence of machine fist was not the fist, but the feet. Through the coordination of footwork, the target of the attack could be changed intermittently, making the opponent unable to react and be hit by the strafing shot. Just as Zhang He finished his words, he suddenly frowned with a look of surprise and said, "Eh? Why could Lu Cheng still keep up with Peng Liyun after changing the attacking position 3 times? The two of them had a tacit understanding as if they had fought dozens or hundreds of times. Unparalleled Dragon King also noticed that something was wrong. Lu Cheng's heart turned into ice and turned into a crystal-clear mirror, reflecting the clear scene within a 1-meter radius. In this scene, he could see the general changes in Peng Liyun's muscles and the preparation before the step. This allowed him to judge in advance and respond accordingly. Ice Mirror was the most difficult unique skill of the ice sect for those below the physical invulnerability stage. Lu Cheng formed a Dan with the combination of essence, qi, spirit and willpower, and mixed with a little premonition of the Jin Dan. He was only 1 step away from the entry level of Ice Mirror. With the combination of forwarding formula and swordsman formula, he finally entered the entry level a month ago and was now firmly in the initial level. It was because of this that he was able to defend himself from Peng Liyun's machine god fist that was infused with thunder and lightning, not scattering or panicking. Bam 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 bam. Bam 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 bam. The sounds were continuous and seemingly uninterrupted. Lu Qing always reacted in advance, either quickly swinging his arm, swinging his wrist or flicking his 5 fingers. With the smooth and transparent nature of the force around him, his defense was watertight. However, his strength was not as good as Peng Liyun's. After blocking a few moves, he had to take a step back to relieve the pressure. As a result, it seemed that he was being forced back by a machine fist, step by step. However, during this process, Lu Cheng's steps were curved, not straight lines, so as to avoid falling off the arena. One's attack was exaggerated and fierce, while the other's defense was steady and amazing. The audience in the arena and in front of the computer couldn't help but change their posture and move their bodies. It seemed that they couldn't wait to jump up and throw a few punches to vent their excitement. He's too strong. He's not human. Huang He, no, Peng Liyun, he's not human. Even if he's an iron plate, he'd probably be smashed into pieces. Lu Cheng is pretty good too. I'm almost dizzy, but he's still so steady in his defense. Yeah, he doesn't show any signs of losing. He really lives up to his reputation. After countless punches, just when Lu Cheng felt that he couldn't take it anymore, Peng Liyun finally caught his breath. He stopped the machine fist move and his abdomen expanded and contracted. Chance. This is the moment I've been waiting for. Lu Cheng took a step back and dissolved the accumulated pressure. In his mind, he outlined a sharp ancient character. Ignoring the pain in his arms and fists, he raised his hands to make a gesture and solemnly said in a low voice, Army. Army formula, a secret spiritual technique. His voice reverberated in the surroundings. The atmosphere suddenly became desperate. Peng Liyun felt like he was trapped in an army of tens of thousands. His ears were filled with murderous shouts, his feet were trembling because of thousands of galloping horses, and his body was filled with iron-blooded killing intent. He was surrounded by enemies, and he felt like he was surrounded by enemies. His mind was in a mess, and his body involuntarily trembled. He hurriedly visualized the scene of yin and yang clashing and bursting out thunderbolts in his mind. Boom! The thunderbolts burst out and turned into a solemn and condescending god. A sense of extreme yang filled the surroundings, dispelling the killing intent and dispersing the weapons. The unique skill of the Thunder sect, specialized in eliminating external evil. Boom! Lu Cheng was hit by the spiritual counterattack. His mind kept buzzing. He seemed to have turned into a ghost in the midst of lightning and thunder. His body trembled, as if he would vanish at any time. The ice mirror in his heart lake flashed and a crack appeared. At this moment, he outlined a large character in his mind. He made a gesture in front of his chest with one hand and pressed on his dantian with the other. Forward. A deep sound surrounded him. Lu Cheng seemed to have spat out all the fear in his heart. Good. Peng Liyun pressed and swung his waist and naturally used force concentration. He displayed the heavenly punishment hammer, one of the 24 hammering techniques of the Thunder sect. He swung his right arm and hit Lu Cheng from above, not giving him any chance to dodge. The heavenly punishment of thunder had its own vibration. Lu Cheng followed suit and poured his strength into his right arm. His flesh didn't swell but tightened instead. He swung his fist upwards without any hesitation. Skyward punch. Boom. In the arena, the sound of an explosion suddenly sounded. The shockwave rolled out in all directions with their fists as the center. Lu Cheng's feet almost sank into the ground, but because of this, the surrounding area cracked and damaged his shoes. He had to shake his body and was about to retreat. Suddenly, he took a deep breath and condensed the influence of the rolling qi and blood and the vibration at one point. He steadied his center of gravity, borrowed strength, and pulled out his left leg tightly. Double explosion, mega avalanche. Peng Liyun did the same. He exploded his Dan force again and kicked out his leg as fast as lightning. Bang! 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 Lu Cheng incorporated the brutal blizzard into the continuous explosion and shook Zen frequently, tit for tat with Peng Liyun. triple explosion, quadruple explosion, quintuple explosion, and sextuple explosion. The place where they fought was full of wind and waves. Debris splashed everywhere and kept making the sound of explosions. 7 explosion, 8 explosion, 9 explosion, and 10 explosion. Lu Cheng was forced to retreat continuously, but the frequency was getting lower and lower. With the help of the 24 blizzard strikes, he was gradually able to fight evenly with Peng Liyun. Peng Liyun, on the other hand, was getting fiercer and fiercer. There was no sign of weakness at all. The area where they were fighting fiercely was trampled into obvious pits and filled with smoke and dust. Bang! 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 Every collision sound was like a bomb falling and exploding in the hearts of Su Wanyan and others. Fang Zhirong couldn't help but tear off the white towel on his head and stare at the arena in a daze. Awesome! Awesome! The bullet screen was full of similar cries. Damn it, Lu Cheng can keep up with the 10 explosion? This is the highest level competition below the inhuman level, right? I want to find someone to fight with. Ask a girl to get out of here, no, fight with me. Bang! Lu Cheng's martial arts shoes were completely broken and turned into butterflies flying around. Peng Liyun's martial arts shoes were broken inch by inch and opened silently. One of them hit the other with a backhand, and the other with a fist to the chest, and each made 11 explosion. After entering the Dan stage, Lu Cheng could make 5 explosion without relying on the Jin Dan. After 2 awakenings of supernatural ability, practicing the Dan stage kung fu, and practicing the swordsman formula, he had already broken through the limits of the human body. His physical quality had more than doubled. Without the Jin Dan, he could make 12 explosion. Peng Liyun could make 10 explosion when he fought with Ren Li in the first half of the year, not to mention now that he was close to the inhuman level. He could be called a monster. Just based on this, they were able to firmly suppress Fang Zhirong's group. Bang! The bright white fist collided with the dark blue fist. Lu Cheng felt that Peng Liyun's strength was stronger than before, so he couldn't help but take 2 steps back, leaving a dent in the ground. Peng Liyun staggered a few times and didn't attack in time. After this, the two finally separated and took a break. The internal training dissolved the remaining effect of the tremor punch, which interrupted the crazy continuous explosion. They had just made force concentration one after another, so their physical condition hadn't recovered completely. When the fight was interrupted, the audience in the stands burst into thunderous roars and cheers. Yenjika and the others finally breathed a long sigh of relief. Some were happy, some were relieved, some were shocked, and some were shocked. Week 6th Pin. In the office of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College, Ren Li looked at the projection and said these 3 words. Week 6th Pin. Shin Yu, Jiang Kongchan and the others knew that Morning Star was talking about Lu Cheng. They couldn't help but look at each other and recall the fight just now. Lu Cheng improved from a week 7th pin to a week 6th pin in more than 4 months. Isn't this too exaggerated? Is there any justice in this world? What's more terrible is that Peng Liyun didn't leave any chance for his opponent. What level is he at? In the arena, Lu Cheng had the same idea. He even felt a little desperate. He had done his best, but Peng Liyun was still at ease. It seemed that no matter how he fought, Peng Liyun had a way and a trump card to deal with him. There was no chance for him to win. Lu Cheng recalled that there were several times when he didn't need to fight head-on with him, such as when they exchanged simplified physical and vulnerability moves. But he did so, unlike when he fought with Ren Li in April, when he would dodge and contend. In other words, he had enough confidence and strength to deal with unexpected situations. This was not because Peng Liyun underestimated his opponent, but because when the opportunity was right, as a martial arts fanatic, he was more willing to experience his opponent's unique skill. Of course, this also fully showed that he was at ease. Maybe I can take advantage of his psychological inertia. Lu Cheng took a breath and rushed forward again, intending to use the double-edged sword move. In his mind, he visualized the frozen river, the solidified waves, and the scorching red sun in the sky. The sun fell from the sky and cut through the sky, causing the corresponding part of Lu Cheng's body to change and hit the ice hard. This was Lu Cheng's mutated version of severe warning. This time, the balance of the supernatural abilities of ice and fire would produce a different effect. It would hurt both the enemy and himself. Bam! Lu Cheng's back muscles bulged and shook. He swung his right arm and punched downwards. Peng Liyun had long been excited. He outlined the green thunder and silver lightning in his mind and let them bombard the ground, bursting into golden flames. The 15th move of the Thunder Sect, simplified physical invulnerability move, Thunderbolt Fire. It was a simplified version of the unique physical invulnerability move Heaven Golden Fire. Simplifying it even more, it was the lightning and fire stance that could create a short burst of power. Peng Liyun put his feet inward and bulged his muscles. He became a little taller and majestically raised the fire to burn the sky. He clenched his fist and rushed up. Boom! Ice and fire collided and cancelled each other out. They quickly condensed into a small dot and a vortex around Lu Cheng's fist. It absorbed and swallowed Peng Liyun's burning and paralyzing force. Peng Liyun's fist was stuck to Lu Cheng's hand and couldn't pull it away. Boom! The vortex lost its balance under the influence of the external force and exploded outward, throwing out a fierce force. Thump! 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 This was the first time Peng Liyun was beaten back by Lu Cheng. His body swayed, his spirit dimmed, and his mind was shaken. Lu Cheng endured the backlash of the explosion and took a step forward. He caught up with Peng Liyun and hit him with both hands. In this state, he couldn't do force concentration. With the absolute reaction, Peng Liyun's body shook and he regained his focus. He quickly gathered his Dan and raised his arms in front of him. At this moment, Lu Cheng's arm tendons bounced and retracted. He took a step and went behind Peng Liyun. He lowered his hands, one hook followed by the other. The crystal white cold light and the dangerous red flame hit Peng Liyun close to the ground. Burning ice and flame. At the same time, Lu Cheng's hands moved up and clasped each other. He tightened the corresponding muscles and hammered from the top right to the bottom left like a mountain-splitting giant, blocking Peng Liyun's escape route. This was the 19th move of the Ice Sect, Cold Devour. The cold came from all directions. At this moment, Lu Cheng felt that he had seen Peng Liyun's limit for the first time and that he had a chance to defeat him. Suddenly, Peng Liyun's body began to emit the sound of a turbine being turned on. Yin and Yang clashed, and the electricity generated magnetism. A terrifying repulsive force erupted, slowing down the descent of the mountain's shattering quake, as well as the speed of the cold light and the flames. Bam! Before the mountain smash punch fell, Peng Liyun jumped up and let the burning ice and flames slide under his feet. They exploded in the distance and filled the air with white fog. The light in his eyes turned into lightning and gathered into a ball. At the same time, he bent his arm and hit Lu Cheng's fist with his elbow. The thunder seal in his mind floated in the void, with sparks flying everywhere. Bam! Lu Cheng, who was affected by the double-edged sword, couldn't react in time and was hit by the fist. He felt a strong sense of numbness entering his body. His hair stood on end and his heart seemed to have stopped beating. His internal organs were hurt and he obviously suffered internal injuries. When he recovered, Peng Liyun had turned around and his fist stopped in between his eyebrows. The god's favored one was panting heavily, sweat dripping from his forehead. He was no longer at ease like before. But the referee also raised his right hand and announced the result. Round 3, Peng Liyun wins. Lu Cheng was in a trance and seemed to be affected by the electric force. Peng Liyun is really good. He bitterly closed his eyes. Chapter 335. As expected of Peng Liyun. When Lu Cheng finally saw the light of victory, he was instantly turned around and ushered in the arrival of failure. Strong depression filled Lu Cheng's heart. If he had not held on to hope, he would not be so upset and self-reproach now. How pure the joy was just now was how painful the pain was now. More than 4 months of patience, more than 4 months of bitter training, more than 4 months of anticipation. In the end, all came to naught and turned into flowing water. What a joke. I had promised Ke that I would teach Peng Liyun an unforgettable lesson together with Lin Quebec. I wanted to suppress his willpower, affect his confidence in winning, and slow down his speed of breaking through to the inhuman stage. I wanted to preserve my hope for next year's finals. But now, I had been slapped in the face. I didn't have the face to face my parents anymore. Perhaps it was fortunate that I was a low-key person and had only said such words in front of Ke. Otherwise, who knew how much ridicule and sarcasm would have come from all directions. If I had been the first to fight, defeated Fang Zhirong with the advantage of the wrong position, and challenged Peng Liyun in peak condition, my brother-in-law would have had a chance to defeat this monster, right? If I had not been so anxious just now, not been scared by Peng Liyun's ease, not hurried to use the variant version of severe warning, and not relied on my abnormal physical strength and the replenishment of Jin Dan to grind for a while, would things have been different? When a person encountered a setback, it was hard to restrain himself from thinking that if he had made a different choice at that time, or if he had done better in some details, the result would have been different. Lu Cheng was no exception. But the more he thought about it, the more upset and painful he felt, and even a little bit angry at himself. Taking a breath, he visualized the ice mirror and put away all his thoughts. Lu Cheng nodded to Peng Liyun, who was gasping for breath, and turned around, walking towards the stone steps. His muscles were still trembling, his internal organs were extremely uncomfortable, and there was a salty taste of rust in his throat, as if he was preparing to spit out blood. Not only did he lose, but he also suffered a serious internal injury. Lu Cheng sighed secretly and shook his head bitterly. At this moment, the Shanbei students in the stands suddenly started to applaud, from sparse to enthusiastic, from noisy to orderly, for the wonderful fight just now, and also for the admirable opponent Lu Cheng. You walked out of the arena with your head held high. As the applause echoed, Yan Shaoling suddenly burst into tears. She was moved by everyone's recognition of Lu Cheng, but she was also sad about the previous loss. Lu Cheng had played so well, so why did they let him lose? The cruelty of a match was that most of the time, and in this match, the winner was Peng Liyun. Listening to his opponent's applause, Lu Cheng exhaled a sigh of relief, but the depression and pain in his heart, Halfway through their journey, they met Li Mao. He forced a smile, extended his right hand, and high-fived Li Mao. Really? Maybe he's already at his limit and wants me to take advantage of him? Do your best. Lu Cheng didn't say much. He nodded and walked past Li Mao to the seats. Yan Jika, dressed in white, walked up to him. The girl's eyes were a little red. She bit her lower lip and said firmly, "You fought very well. Even if you lost, I'm proud of you." If it were others, Lu Cheng wouldn't be in the mood to respond. But he couldn't treat Coach Yan like that. He smiled bitterly and said, "I hope next time you can say, 'You fought very well,' or 'You are so good.' 'You fought very well' meant that you lost the battle but made a respectable performance. 'You fought very well' meant that you won the match to your heart's content." Yes. Yan Jika nodded hard. She knew that Lu Cheng didn't want to hear comforting words, so she reached out and held his palm, silently trying to pass her warmth to him. If someone shared the pain, would it be less painful? Yan Jika supported Lu Cheng to sit down, lost in thought. Listening to the applause from the computer, Chu Hui, who was wearing a tuxedo and a top hat, turned pale. He was no longer in high spirits at the beginning. Are these two guys still King human? If it was Peng Liyun, I could accept it. He had been strong for more than 2 years. It was not unacceptable that he became a monster who was close to the inhuman level. Anyway, I was used to losing to him. I didn't even think about winning against Shanbei. However, it had only been 4 months. How did Lu Cheng become so powerful that people could only look up at him? How did he suddenly become so strong? I thought he had a chance to defeat me. How can I fight him? How can I fight next week? Chu Hui turned his head and looked at Luo Hei's, Yin Xiangxi and the other team members. He saw that they were all scared. Some were dull, some were confused, and some were trembling. The gap is so big that I don't want to catch up. Chu Hui looked back painfully and saw the close-up of Lu Cheng. He noticed that something was wrong with him. He was suddenly happy and blurted out, "Lu Cheng is injured." And it was not the kind of injury that could be healed quickly. I knew very well how terrible Peng Liyun's Thunder Force combined with a simplified physical invulnerability move was. I had been hit by it without any protection and had to recuperate for nearly 2 months. Lu Cheng's physical quality was much better than mine. But Peng Liyun was not what he used to be. Without half a month's rest, Lu Cheng would not be able to recover. Lu Cheng is injured? Luo Hei's, Yin Xiangxi and the others were startled, and asked with hidden joy. Yes. Look at his current state. Pay attention to the replay later. See if he was hit directly by Peng Liyun's Thunder Seal. Chu Hui felt lucky and ecstatic as if he had just escaped from death. And Lin Ke was also hit by Dark Poison Force. He probably won't be able to fight in his best state next week. I don't know what they are thinking. They clearly know that there is a big gap between them and Shanbei. Why do they still fight so hard? Isn't it convenient for us? I think we should pay tribute to their martial arts spirit and then enjoy this gift. In the midst of the ridicule, the Martial Arts Club of Sanjiang College confirmed Lu Cheng's situation through the slow-motion replay. They immediately released their accumulated depression and fear and became excited again. Our chance has come. Thank Lu Cheng and Lin Ke for their martial arts spirit and hard work. In the office of the Martial Arts Club of Capital College, Chendigua, Shenyu, Jiang Kongchan and the others were staring at the projection blankly, forgetting to speak and forgetting other things. The atmosphere was strangely quiet. For a moment, they thought Peng Liyun would lose. But unexpectedly, Lu Cheng, who had fought to such an extent, still failed to defeat the god's favored one. After dozens of seconds, Chendigua broke the silence with a wry smile. Shaoli, what level do you think Peng Liyun has reached? Renli pondered and answered, he is 1 step away from the inhuman stage. 1 step away from the inhuman stage. Shen Yu, Jiang Kongchan and the others chewed on these words, feeling lost and awed. Renli's naturally hanging hands unconsciously clenched into fists. In front of the computer screen, Brahman let go of her hands that were pulling her braid, letting a few crystal-clear teardrops slide down her face and fall to the floor. She clicked open the forum and posted a post. Woo-woo. Why, he fought so well, why did you let him lose? Rub your head, it's good enough for him to fight like this, much better than I expected. I thought Lu Cheng would at most be at the level of a strong 7th, so I was afraid that he would lose to Peng Liyun, which would affect his confidence. Unparalleled Dragon King, comforted, Brahman, 55555, I won't listen, I just want him to win. My heart aches when I see him like this. Brahman sent a covering ears and shaking head emoji. Nyechichi also sent a crying face emoji. I know it's good enough for him to fight with Peng Liyun like this, no, it's very good, but I can't help but feel sad, woo-woo. You girls, why are you all so fragile? Do you need the uncle to comfort you? You don't care about your heart, but your kidneys. Okamoto's fan joked and then sighed. I won't say any more, I can't make it up anymore, I'm going to smoke a cigarette to calm down. Hey, think about the gap between Lu Cheng and Peng Liyun half a year ago, and look at the gap now, you should be able to let it go, right? Road to the arena, said. Damn, Lu Cheng lost to Peng Liyun, who is at least a level stronger than him, and you are all so sad. When I was defeated by him, who had no rank, should I have jumped off a building? Fortunately, Lu Cheng has been advancing by leaps and bounds, so losing to him has become an interesting topic, not a disgrace. At this time, many cats suddenly replied, we know rationally that you are right, but we still cry out loud. In the live broadcast room of the video website, the guest commentator Zhang Hejing sighed with emotion. Wonderful. Wonderful. This match makes me want to move my old arms and legs. Lu Qing is strong, Peng Liyun is stronger, the younger generation will surpass us in time. The host echoed, yeah, I didn't expect Lu Qing to push Peng Liyun to this point. It seems that he is reaching his limit. Reaching his limit? No, Peng Liyun is just a little overloaded for a short time, but it doesn't mean that he has no strength to fight anymore. Hey, if Lu Qing hadn't fought hard at the end, maybe we wouldn't have seen him in his overloaded state. Zhang He couldn't help but sigh. At the stage where you're advancing by leaps and bounds, at the age where you're at your most high-spirited, it's very sad and regrettable to meet such an opponent who can firmly suppress you. You mean Peng Liyun is stronger than what he showed just now? The host was stunned. Zhang Hejing nodded slightly and said, he is enjoying the match, not trying to win. I don't need to say more about the difference between the two, right? In other words, Peng Liyun is the strongest at the last moment? The host suddenly realized and asked. You can say that. Zhang Hejing sighed. Is this the god's favored son who aims to reach physical invulnerability? When I was at the peak of 6th pin, I was not so strong. While they were talking, the bullet screen refreshed one by one. It seemed that no one was paying attention to the battle between Li Mao and Peng Liyun. I have to say that Lu Qing is really strong. He can fight with Peng Liyun to this extent after only practicing martial arts for more than a year. I'm on my knees watching. He is so tough that no one has a friend. He is indeed a candidate for the god's favored son, and he is more promising than others. After many positive affirmations of Lu Qing, someone looked into the future and said, I can't imagine what level Lu Qing will reach in half a year or a year. Will he be able to surpass Peng Liyun? This sentence suddenly stirred up a hornet's nest and attracted a group of people to attack. Surpass Lu Zai? Ha ha ha, what a joke. As if Lu Zai won't improve? He will enter the inhuman level soon. How can a guy who relies on his supernatural ability and ancestral chromosomes be compared with Peng Liyun? Didn't you listen to the commentary? Just now Lu Zai didn't use his full strength at all. Well, he didn't use his full strength and he fell down. Tisk tsk, if you have the ability to fight again, Peng Liyun just had a few moves with Lin Quebec. If it's a one-on-one battle, Lu Qing will be beaten to a pulp. Are you done yet? I'm just speculating based on the facts. Lu Qing has improved from an ordinary person to a fighter close to professional 6th pin or even weaker than professional 6th pin after practicing martial arts for 1 year and 2 months. Give him another half a year or a year, who knows how far he can go. I'm not laughing at him. Such a large span of improvement never lasts too long, and the higher he goes, the more difficult it is. Lu Qing's speed of improvement will inevitably slow down. If he can enter the inhuman level within a year, I will live broadcast eating sh*t. Yes, Lu Qing is very powerful and a genius, but if you want to compare with Peng Liyun, then I will answer you with a line from a comic. Trash, you are not good enough. Go to hell and eat sh*t. I wonder if Lu Qing will lose confidence after being beaten by Lu Zai. Just now I found that he was desperate. And a fighter without confidence is a salted fish, and it is difficult for him to improve again. The argument on the internet was very fierce. After the game, I wanted to see the bullet screen to see how they praised Lu Qing's Brahman. So hateful. I want to beat them. I want to quarrel with them. On the live arena, the battle between Li Mao and Peng Liyun had begun. The latter did not turn away directly and left the opportunity of actual combat to Su Wanyan. Instead, he gave the greatest respect to his opponent, adjusted his breath, took a stance, and let him attack. This was the most hardy game Li Mao had ever played. 24 blizzard strikes, was one move after another. The more he fought, the fiercer and crazier he became. There was almost no stagnation and no pause. Bang! He threw the most powerful punch he had ever thrown since he started practicing martial arts. He felt an incomparable sense of comfort. Peng Liyun swung his waist and abdomen and raised his arms to block accurately, not moving an inch. Li Mao was about to attack again, but suddenly he felt that his body was empty and had no strength to continue. Unconsciously, he had finished one round of 24 blizzard strikes. Looking at Peng Liyun, who was panting in front of him, Li Mao laughed at himself and said, "Thank you. Thank you for your help." After that, he turned and walked out of the arena without waiting for the referee's announcement. He sighed slightly without regret or loss. The referee raised his right hand and said, "Round 4, Peng Liyun wins. Shanbei University wins this game." In the home team seats, Su Wanyan waved his fist happily, feeling that he had escaped a disaster and did not have to face the monster who could bounce back, Corvine mouth. Fang Zhirong's eyes were gloomy and not very happy. He was brooding about his loss to Lin Quebec. On the other side of Songqing University, when Li Mao came back, they high-fived each other and returned to the locker room in silence. Lu Qing, who was holding Yan Zhika's hand, turned around subconsciously and looked at the arena. He saw Peng Liyun standing there, applauding to the crowd. The lights fell and covered him with a layer of golden brilliance. Lu Qing withdrew his gaze, closed his eyes and entered the locker room. On the way back, the members of the martial arts club were silent. Kai Zhongming wanted to break the silence several times, but when the words came to his mouth, he was not in the mood to say them. Mu Jinyan and Yan Shaoling sat in the back row, looking at the silent Lin Quebec. They felt sorry for him and wanted to say something to comfort him, but in the end, they did not do so. Lu Qing and Yan Zhika snuggled up to each other. Smelling the familiar fragrance and feeling the warmth that made them relax, they calmed down a lot and slowly got over it. "Look, many people on the internet are praising you." Yan Zhika happened to read some comments on Weibo and saw the praise at the beginning. She quickly handed the phone to Lu Qing with an expression that said, "Praise me." Lu Qing read the comments one by one. Seeing that everyone was praising his strength and admiring the brilliance of the previous matches, a smile gradually appeared on his face. Yan Zhika also moved her head closer to him and read the comments together with him. From time to time, she slightly raised her white and delicate chin, revealing a sense of pride. But when Lu Qing turned to the section where he compared himself with Peng Liyun, he found all kinds of ridicule, such as relying on supernatural ability and ancestral chromosomes, losing confidence after being beaten, and not enough, and a candidate is just a candidate. His temples twitched and his heart was filled with anger. He wanted to prove something, wanted to argue about right and wrong, but sadly found that the loser had no excuse. Only victory could counterattack everything. Yan Zhika bit her lips tightly, and her clear eyes were burning with anger, which made her look even brighter. She suppressed her anger and did not want to infect her boyfriend with this emotion. She reached out her finger to stop the discussion and pretended to be rational. "Cheng, don't care about them. Some people are just bad for the sake of being bad." "Okay." Lu Qing wanted to turn around and comfort Coach Yan, but suddenly saw a long Weibo post from All-Knowing Man in Ganghood, a well-known martial arts influencer. This defeat has more advantages than disadvantages for Lu Qing. Huh? Why did he say that? Not only Lu Qing, but also Yan Zhika was quite curious and quickly clicked to read. It is foreseeable that Lu Qing will enter a period of slow improvement. Why do I say that? Everyone can see that every time Lu Qing's strength rises, it is accompanied by the awakening of supernatural ability. It is obvious that the awakening of supernatural ability will greatly improve the quality of the body. Of course, the premise is that there is no obstacle in the realm. That is to say, if one does not enter the Dan stage, the strength of the body will not change qualitatively even if the supernatural ability is awakened. Lu Qing had the strength of a quasi-seventh fighter when he just entered the Dan stage. He relied on his abnormal physical strength and the practice of the Frost Force in advance. He improved from a quasi-seventh fighter to a weak sixth fighter in a little more than 4 months because of the second awakening of the dual supernatural abilities of ice and fire and the honeymoon period, when he formally entered the Dan stage. Now, this period has passed, and we all know that the awakening of supernatural ability is more difficult than the previous one. Lu Qing will not have this kind of bonus in 1 or 2 years. In this way, it is foreseeable that the speed of improvement of his strength will slow down. By April next year, he can expect to improve from a weak 6th fighter to an ordinary 6th fighter after he has mastered more ice sect moves and related combat experience. The gap between him and Peng Liyun will be further widened. And this speed will accompany him for a long time. Whether he can enter the inhuman level without relying on the awakening of supernatural ability within 2 years will be the test of whether he can be considered a heavenly son of the age. This complete defeat came at the right time, so that he will not be arrogant. He can clearly understand the gap between himself and Peng Liyun and the fact that he may not be able to catch up in a few years. The advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Maybe this is a wake-up call? This Weibo post seemed to be speaking from Lu Cheng's point of view, but the whole post was full of condescension and sinister thoughts that Lu Cheng relied on the awakening of supernatural ability to improve by leaps and bounds. In other words, it was implying that Lu Cheng was not as good as Peng Liyun and that he would have to get used to mediocrity and depression. Yan Zhika gritted her teeth and quietly clenched her fists. This person is talking nonsense. Cheng, don't pay attention to him. Okay. Lu Cheng exhaled. In fact, all-knowing man in ganghood was right about some things. The benefits of his rapid improvement were indeed running out. The awakening of supernatural ability was not something that could be considered at this stage. The changes to the body caused by the practice of Dan's stage were getting weaker and weaker. It was entering the stage where it needed to be accumulated over time. Only the internal practice of the swordsman formula could be looked forward to. Because of this, he became angrier and angrier about this comment because he could not refute it. Looking at his expression, Yan Zhika pursed her lips and rolled her eyes, as if she was thinking about something. When they returned to the new campus of Songqing University, the sky was already dark. They waved to each other and said goodbye in low spirits. Mu Jinyan could not control her footsteps and followed Lin Quebec looking at his silent back. She kept thinking of comforting him. No, I know Lin K won't want to be comforted. She restrained herself and stayed 2 steps behind Lin K to accompany him. When they were approaching the 9th dormitory, Lin K suddenly stopped and turned to look at Mu Jinyan. Do you have a pen and paper? Ah. Mu Jinyan was stunned. He is talking to me. He is talking to me for the first time. He knows I want an autograph. She came to her senses and hurriedly took off her backpack. She took out a pen and a sticky note and handed them to Lin Quebec. Lin K did not say anything and quickly wrote a line of words. Thank you for not comforting me. Thank you for not comforting me. Mu Jinyan took back the sticky note and saw Lin K turn around and walk into the dormitory. His eyes were painful, but his back was straight. I will always support you. Mu Jinyan shouted, no longer caring about other people's opinions. Lu Cheng was pulled to the lakeside by Yan Zhika. They passed through the woods and came to the deserted western district. What are we doing here? He could not help but ask. Follow me. Yan Zhika had never been here before. She only came here when she was abducted by Lu Cheng. But she noticed something around with her girl's special attention and sensitivity. She took Lu Cheng to an unfinished building. She pointed up and said, let's go to the roof. I want to feel the breeze. This building was planned to be the library of the new campus. It would replace the temporary one and become the largest library in the province and one of the best in the country. Okay. Lu Cheng understood that the girl wanted him to see the distance and feel the cool breeze. So he did not refuse. Along the stairs, they walked slowly. After a long time, they finally came to the top and saw the scenery without guardrails. Looking down from above, the eastern district was brightly lit. The lake reflected the light. The scenery was so charming and refreshing. Lu Cheng's depression in his heart seemed to be relieved. Let's sit on the side. Yan Zhika suggested. She was not afraid of heights at all. Lu Cheng took the tissue and spread it on the edge. He sat down with the girl leaning against each other. They breathed in the cool breeze and looked at the open sky. Suddenly, Yan Zhika looked ahead and said, Cheng, do you remember I sang for you? Yes, you were cheering for me. Lu Cheng smiled. Yan Zhika pursed her lips into a smile and said gently, then I'll sing for you again. Without waiting for Lu Cheng to answer, she faced the open sky and hummed softly, running forward, facing the cold eyes and ridicule. How can you feel the vastness of life without suffering? Fate can't make us kneel and beg for mercy even if blood is spilled all over our arms. The girl's clear and melodious voice echoed in his ears. In front of him was a vast expanse of land that stretched as far as the eye could see. It was the Milky Way that flowed in the darkness. It was her black hair that fluttered in the wind. For a moment, Lu Qing actually felt a little drunk. His emotions gradually emptied and his heart gained strength again. Failure was not terrible. What was terrible was losing the will to fight and confidence. Then keep running forward, facing the cold eyes and ridicule. Keep running, with the pride of a newborn. How can you see the brilliance of life without persevering to the end? Instead of lingering at death's door, why not burn heartily? One day it will sprout again. The song lingered in the air. Chapter 336. The cold wind was blowing and the night was quiet. Looking at Yen Jika, who had just finished singing, Lu Qing felt relaxed and calm. His gloominess had completely faded away. She took a deep breath and glanced at him. She raised her chin and hummed deliberately, "My singing was not bad, right?" Her 2 feet dangled outside the building, swaying lightly and playfully. Not only was it not bad. Lu Qing laughed and reached out to hold Yen Jika's waist, letting her lean her head on his shoulder. He looked at the Weishui lake in the distance and said with a bit of self-mockery, "People will always be greedy little by little. At first, I didn't have much confidence in defeating Penglian. Although I said that in front of you, I was actually quite nervous. I thought that not only should I join hands with your brother, but also the effect of the second awakening of the supernatural ability of fire was not worse than expected. I also hoped that we could face Penglian in our best condition and just try our best to beat him. I didn't expect to beat Shanbei in the end. However, as the second awakening of the supernatural ability of fire brought about an obvious improvement, and as my dance stage cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds, I gradually gained confidence. I was no longer satisfied with my previous thoughts, and I no longer felt that overthrowing Shanbei was an impossible task. When I obtained the Zhe formula, the Army formula, and the Qian formula, and mastered them quickly, I became even more ambitious. I felt that I could compete with Penglian. I knew that I was definitely weaker than him, but I no longer thought that this gap was insurmountable. I was able to defeat Zhang Zhutong and Han Jifei in the past. Now I have the hope to defeat Penglian. Don't laugh. I did think so before. Even though your brother fought hard with Fang Zhirong and didn't cause much damage to Penglian, I was still full of hope before the battle. But reality taught me a lesson. I tried my best, but Penglian seemed to be at ease. It seemed that no matter how I fought, he could firmly suppress me. If I hadn't risked using the variant severe warning at the end, I'm afraid I wouldn't have seen his strongest side. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. The truth is crueler. That's why I was so upset and depressed and easily angry at others' bad comments. Now that I think about it, I was a little too arrogant. Yen Jika pursed her lips and smiled as she listened to Lu Cheng's analysis of her inner thoughts. Isn't it said that men don't want to expose their embarrassing failures in front of girls? Yes, the so-called pride and self-esteem of men. Cheng, why are you telling me this? Lu Cheng chuckled. Because you are Coach Yen, the mentor of my life. It's good that you remember. Yen Jika immediately beamed with joy and deliberately said in an old-fashioned tone, "Then what do you think now?" What made her the happiest was that Qing seemed to have walked out of the shadow of failure. Thoughts? Yes, recognize the gap and catch up. I have a small goal. I want to defeat Shanbei before Penglian graduates. Without waiting for Yen Jika's answer, he suddenly added, I heard that Penglian doesn't like to take the stairs through the front door. Instead, he habitually jumps out of the window. Is that true? Yen Jika was startled and blurted out, "What do you want?" Based on his understanding of Cheng, he wouldn't mention this for no reason. Lu Cheng looked down at the frightening scene and said with a smile, "I want to try. Do you want to join me?" Although Yen Jika wasn't afraid of heights, she didn't want to commit suicide and didn't have a hobby of jumping off a building. Looking at the ground far away and the scene that could make a person with acrophobia weak in the knees, she reflexively opened her mouth to refuse. At this moment, Lu Qing turned to look at her and smiled calmly. "Trust me." Hearing this, Yenjika gently bit her pink lips and nodded, saying, "Yes. Yes." As soon as she finished speaking, she felt herself being pulled over by Lu Qing and carried in a princess carry. With one hand holding the crook of her leg and the other holding her back. Why this position? Yenjika was so shy that she hit Lu Qing. This was the first time she was carried in a princess carry. No, how could he carry her in a princess carry at this time? Lu Qing chuckled and answered, "If the situation goes wrong, this position makes it easier for me to throw you out." No matter what, he couldn't let his little fairy get hurt. Ah. While Yenjika was still thinking about this sentence, she suddenly found Lu Qing jumping forward. She suddenly felt the wind in her ears become fierce. Her body fell rapidly and her hair was flying wildly. The ground was getting closer and closer, bigger and bigger. Yenjika, who was used to being rational, felt her hair stand on end. She instinctively wanted to scream, as if she had heard the knock of the Grim Reaper on the door. Was this the excitement of bungee jumping? But now it was even more terrible than bungee jumping. There was no rope around her waist. Was this the feeling between life and death? She subconsciously hugged Lu Qing tightly and leaned her face against the place that made her feel safe. When they were about to hit the ground, Lu Qing suddenly condensed his qi and blood, force and spirit, hugging and releasing. His body seemed to expand and expand, changing the friction with the air and gliding forward in a small arc bang. He stepped on the ground and the ground seemed to shake. Straightening his back and transmitting the force, Lu Qing carried Yenjika in a princess carry and took a big step forward, as light as a feather. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. He completely neutralized all the force of the recoil and didn't let the girl feel uncomfortable at all. Done? Yenjika's long eyelashes fluttered and looked around. She actually didn't close her eyes just now and just looked straight at the ground. "Coach Yen, we landed safely." With this jump, Lu Qing vented all his negative emotions and gave a humorous answer in an excited tone. Yenjika laughed and struggled to stand up straight. She kept tidying her long hair with both hands and looked around with bright eyes. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement, like a child who played an interesting game. Was it fun? Was it exciting? Lu Qing asked cheerfully. Yes. Yenjika nodded hard and admitted honestly. She was always led by Qing to do bad things. Suddenly, she remembered something and raised her eyebrows. "You still have internal injuries. How can you jump just like that? Aren't you afraid of adding more injuries to your injuries?" "I'm fine, aren't I?" Lu Qing moved his body to show that he was fine and then said with a smile, "I'm young, so I have to be frivolous." "Humph, it's not me who is injured anyway." Yenjika knew that her boyfriend mainly wanted to vent. Seeing that he was fine, she didn't say more. But Lu Qing was still excited. He turned around and squatted down. Come, I'll carry you." I'm not tired. My feet are not sore." Yenjika answered with a confused face. "What's the matter? What reason does a boyfriend need to carry his girlfriend?" Lu Qing smiled and didn't change his posture. Yenjika's eyes moved. She pursed her lips and turned her head, secretly spitting. But she walked briskly to him and bent down. Lu Qing carried the girl on his back and strolled on the edge of the deserted western district. He listened to her softly humming a melodious song and chatted with her from time to time. "Actually, my brother is more affected than you." "I think so too. But he doesn't need or want sympathy or comfort. That's Lin Quebec, I believe he can eventually catch up. Laggards may not always be laggards." "Are you encouraging me in a disguised way?" "If you say so, then so be it. You can talk all you want, but can you not always blow into my ear?" "So what if I blow into your ear?" "You even kissed me." You can kiss me too. I don't mind. Rogue. The moonlight was gentle, and the barren land was beautiful. The next morning, despite his internal injuries, Lu Qing woke up early as usual. He went to the Weishui Lake and started practicing the swordsman formula in the cool breeze. Relying on his inner vision state and the dance stage martial artist's ability to control minute details, he repaired the disharmony in his body little by little. Gizershur stood beside him with his arms folded. He said casually, "The swordsman formula has a good healing effect. I'll teach you the healing skills of the ice sect when I have time. How long do you think it will take for you to fully recover?" 11 or 12 days, if there's no fierce battle. Lu Qing said with a little guilty. He was young and frivolous last night and jumped off the building. Otherwise, he would have recovered in less than 10 days. Since he could use inner vision, he could accurately judge the recovery of his injuries. Gizershur snorted. You took longer than me. Can you fight in the next round? Yes. It'll be stable in 7 days. It won't worsen the injury if it's not a fight like the last one. Lu Qing answered without hesitation. Although he could only use 70 to 80% of his strength, it was enough to teach those who wanted to take advantage of him a lesson. After the morning exercise, it was still the special training as usual. But Gizershur didn't watch quietly as usual. He only gave a few pointers and corrected them. Instead, he stood in front of the team, looked around, and said with a smile, "I had something to say when I saw you guys like frosted eggplants yesterday. But after thinking about it, I think it's better to give you guys a night to experience it. It'll leave a deep impression." Seeing that Lu Qing and Li Mao were a little ashamed, Gizershur waved his hand and said, "It's normal to feel pain, sadness, and unhappiness after losing an important match. It's not a sign of weakness. It only shows that you care, that you still have the desire and drive. Those who can recover immediately after losing a battle, calm down immediately, and laugh immediately are not mature, but numb. They don't care enough. They are numb to failure, numb to martial arts, and lose enthusiasm for winning or losing. They don't care enough. I don't dare to say about other professions, but on the path of martial arts, such warriors often lose the desire and drive to move forward. They are willing to accept failure, compromise, and surrender in front of the strong. You guys are not bad. You didn't feel that Shanbei was just a formality. Look at Dragon King. No matter what the reason is, as long as he loses an important battle, he is really unapproachable. His face is so black that it can drip water. But he's good at turning this pain into fuel to move forward. You guys should learn from him. Don't always be depressed and get stuck in it." Lu Qing and the others nodded repeatedly. They were all enlightened. At this time, Gizershur said with a serious expression, "Were you sad yesterday?" "Yes." Lu Qing and the others were stunned for a while before answering in unison. "Were you in pain?" Gizershur asked again. "Yes." Lin Ke hesitated and followed the others. Hearing this, Gizershur suddenly laughed and scolded, "Since you know how to be sad and feel pain, why don't you all go back to practice hard?" "Yes." The morale of Lu Qing and the others was lifted again. Seeing that they began to practice and heal, Gizershur smiled and took out the flagon to drink. What was it called in the words of the young people? Cool. Chapter 337. It was drizzling lightly, knocking on the windowsill and isolating the noise from the outside world. Combined with the words, Sunday morning, it created a lazy atmosphere that made people unwilling to open their eyes or leave their bed. Yan Shaoling wrapped herself in the quilt and didn't want to wake up. In her dream, she seemed to be able to forget yesterday's failure and sadness and not worry about anything. She had a bad habit of sleeping intermittently and looking at her phone from time to time when she woke up. Her good skill was to turn over and fall asleep quickly. She forced herself to open her eyes and put her phone under the warm quilt. Yan Shaoling unlocked the screen and refreshed the campus forum she had browsed before. She saw a new post marked in red. Is there anyone who wants to cheer for the martial arts club now? Cheer for the martial arts club? Wasn't the match yesterday? Am I hallucinating? Yan Shaoling rubbed her face and clicked on the post. The poster said, I watched the match between the martial arts club and Shanbei. It made my blood boil and I feel sorry for them. They fought so well but still had to bear the pain of failure. I feel that I should do something for them. Is there anyone who wants to go to the martial arts arena to show support? Now, boys or girls are welcome. Well. Yan Shaoling scrolled down and found a lot of replies. The more she read, the more impulsive she became. Finally, she conquered the cold of the winter morning and pulled herself out of the comfortable bed. She put on a long down jacket, opened the dormitory door and ran into the bone-chilling north wind. As a girl from Yanling, she couldn't adapt to the southern winter at all. In the martial arts arena, Lu Qing practiced the swordsman formula internally for a while and then took a break. He knew how to relax and tighten, which fully showed the identity of the injured. During this process, he noticed that students were coming in one after another. They walked to the stands on both sides and sat down in a mess. What's going on? Lu Qing, who was correcting and guiding Yan Jika, was puzzled. He couldn't figure out what was going on. Flash? Doesn't seem like it. Cheng, look, there are so many students. We didn't have so many students watching us during the special training. Yan Jika also sensed that something was wrong. Taking advantage of her boyfriend's approach, she raised her chin toward the stands. Yeah, it's making me nervous. I'm always afraid of making big news. Lu Qing looked around and answered in a low voice. At this moment, Kai Zongming's eyes met his as he was looking around. He said excitedly, Qing, did you see that? Some of our classmates even came to watch our training, and there were so many of them. This is the rhythm of becoming famous. This is the treatment of a martial arts expert. It can't be that bad, right? Lu Qing was stunned. Kai Zongming was about to make up a set of self-justifying theories when he suddenly saw the students who came on Sunday morning stand up. They formed a loudspeaker with their hands and shouted to the special training members, "Good luck. Keep it up." Their voices echoed in the slightly spacious stadium. Lu Qing and the others were stunned for a moment, but they soon realized that the students were expressing their support for yesterday's competition. Keep up the good work means that you guys did very, very well in the last match. Good luck. Keep it up. The scattered voices became more and more orderly and gradually merged into one. Lu Qing and the others seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They became more motivated and passionate in training. Quick, take a picture. Shu Rui's eyes were slightly red, and she ordered the cameraman with shining eyes. What a great bunch of classmates. What a loving picture. When everyone left reluctantly, the special training was coming to an end. Shu Rui finally found a chance to record the post-match match that she was too embarrassed to do yesterday. She decided to start with the most difficult part. Lin K, how's your recovery? Has the dark poison force been completely eliminated? Shu Rui put on a friendly smile. She couldn't be wrong to start with words of concern. Lin K panted and sweated. He glanced at her and said, secret. Secret? Secret again. What a damn secret. Shu Rui's mouth was half open, and the corner of her eyes twitched. After taking a deep breath, she maintained her professional smile and said, Are you afraid that Sanjiang College will find out about the progress of your recovery? Well, I'll change the question. You seem to be in good spirits. It seems that you have walked out of the influence of failure. No. Lin K answered very seriously. What an honest boy. Shu Rui had the urge to cover her face and sigh, but she still smiled gracefully. Why do you say so? You don't look like one. Failure inspires me to move forward. Lin K said concisely. What a standard answer. I feel like I've been tricked. Shu Rui silently watched Lin K turn around and walk to the locker room. She collected herself and stopped Lu Qing. She smiled and said, You seem to be in a good mood. Young people don't fail. Lu Qing laughed. I like to chat with young people like you. I feel full of vitality again. Shu Rui made fun of herself. About yesterday's match, what do you think? I found the gap. Well, I also saw the hope and set a goal. Lu Qing said frankly, not hiding anything. You have momentum. Shu Rui gave him a thumbs up and praised him sincerely. She didn't want to pester him and turned to Yen Jika. Is it a pity that you didn't play yesterday? She passed the microphone to Yen Jika. Yen Jika pursed her lips and smiled. Yes. Although I couldn't have changed anything, it was still a pity. I heard that Peng Liyun likes to take shortcuts by jumping off buildings. That's the strength of a professional sixth pin in the dance stage. Has Lu Qing done something similar before? Shu Rui asked. She asked casually, but Yen Jika was startled. She was almost stunned. Reporter Shu asked this on purpose, didn't she? Did she mean it? Qing just hugged me and experienced that kind of excitement last night, and she asked this question this morning. Isn't it too much of a coincidence? Did someone see it and expose it last night? That kind of thing. She looked at Shu Rui suspiciously and then smiled sweetly with dimples. Good kids don't imitate dangerous moves. Well, that's it. Shu Rui was confused by Yen Jika's irrelevant answer. In a hurry to catch up on homework, it was already 3:00 on Saturday afternoon, December 28. Songqing University Martial Arts Club would challenge Sanjiang College Martial Arts Club on Sunday. If they lost, they would have no chance to enter the finals of this martial arts competition. To be cautious, they packed their luggage and gathered at the bus station. They planned to leave one day earlier and use the whole night to rest up so that they wouldn't be affected by the long journey. In front of the bus, Shu Rui stood with the microphone in her hand. With the camera as the background, she said to Lu Qing, Lin Ke, and the others, another expedition is coming. Don't you want to say something? Say something? While Lu Qing and Yen Jika were thinking, Little Ming's eyes lit up. He patted each of them on the shoulder and whispered something. Then Lu Qing and Yen Jika put their arms around each other's shoulders. Yen Jika was next to He Zi, and He Zi was next to Mu Jinyan. Everyone participated in the same action and formed an arc. They bowed their backs and shouted in unison, we want to win. No matter who our opponent is, we want to win. December 29th, Sunday afternoon, 2:50 p.m., in the martial arts arena of Sanjiang College. In the locker room of the home team, Chu Hui was wearing a black tuxedo and a top hat. He looked around at Luo Hei's, Yin Xiangxi and the others and said solemnly, Lu Cheng's internal injury hasn't healed, and Lin Ke is affected by the dark poison force. He's definitely not in his best condition. This is our chance. I have to admit, no matter in which industry or circle, luck is a very important thing. And this time, it belongs to us. If we didn't meet Songqing University in the second round, and if Songqing University didn't fight so hard against Shanbei, we wouldn't have any hope. But now, we have a big chance of winning. Since we have a good chance of winning, we can't miss it. We can't miss it because of our own mistakes. There's an old saying that goes, if you don't take what God gives, you'll be punished. If you don't take what God gives, you'll be punished. Luo Hei's, Yin Xiangxi and the others silently repeated these words. They were a little excited by the president's words. In the locker room of the away team, Geyser looked at Lu Cheng and Lin Ke and asked, you two brats, can you fight? Lu Cheng and Lin Ke didn't look at each other, but they shouted at the same time, yes. Chapter 338. Since all of you can fight, we don't need to care about the order. Geyser had an indifferent look on his face. Little Yen, you'll be the vanguard. You'll gain more combat experience. Okay. Yen Jika answered in a clear voice. Geyser looked at Lin Quebec, you'll be the second one. Don't fight too hard. Don't let the last bit of poison come back and leave a bad effect. He made it sound very serious on purpose so that Lin Ke wouldn't overhear it. Lin Ke nodded slightly with an expressionless face. Geezer sure glanced at Lu Cheng. Brat, take it easy in the end. Yes, master. After a week of treatment, Lu Cheng was eager to fight in the arena. In the locker room of the home team, Chu Hui looked at Luo Hei's and Yin Xiangxi and shook his head with a smile. It's a pity that the substitutes of Songqing University are much stronger. Otherwise, you two can take turns to fight Lin Ke and I can fight Lu Cheng alone. That would be easy. Yeah, the substitutes of Songqing University are much stronger. It's not that easy to defeat them. Yin Xiangxi sighed. Yan Zhika was a professional 9th pin fighter, Li Mao was close to professional 9th pin, and Sun Jian, Lin Hua, and Kai Zongming were all strong 1st pin fighters. It was not easy to defeat them. Luo Hei's echoed. Unless we meet you, President. Chu Hui smiled reservedly. I have to maintain my full strength to fight against Lu Cheng. I can't consume too much energy in advance. According to my estimation, Songqing University will definitely let the substitutes be the vanguard when the gap between you and the substitutes is not that big. Lu Cheng's internal injuries haven't healed yet, so he should be the one to hold the field. If he can avoid fighting, he should. If he can, he should. At this point, he turned his head to look at Yin Xiangxi. Li Mao has the problem of being nervous. Although it's not too serious, it still affects him to some extent. Yan Zhika has less actual combat experience and is a girl, so she tends to panic when encountering situations. Sun Jian and Kai Zongming are relatively weaker, so they are all restrained by your fighting style. You'll be the first one to fight. Fight fiercely and scare them. Try to win quickly. Okay. Yin Xiangxi clenched his fists, eager to try. He was known for not blocking or blocking, only attacking and not defending. He was good at seizing opportunities with courage and judgment in a split second. His fighting style was very aggressive and could scare people. In short, you and Haizhe should exhaust Lin Ke as much as possible. Don't let me be distracted by him. This is the key to victory. Chu Hui said with high fighting spirit. In the blink of an eye, the match was about to begin. Led by Geezer Shi, Lu Cheng, Yan Zhika, and the others walked out of the locker room and went to the guest team seats in a single file. At this moment, a burst of ear-piercing boos suddenly rang out in the stadium full of spectators, which lasted for a long time. You're making me want to go to the bathroom, Talker teased casually. Then you should go and have your prostate checked. Lu Cheng glanced at him. Different home grounds really had different styles. The students of Sanjiang High School did not curse or attack, they just booed you. Xiaoming didn't want to lose, so he said, this is a figure of speech, do you understand? You're so uncultured. Hee, listening to the boos, do you have the urge to beat them to a stop, just like that time in Yimo? You say it like you've been there yourself, Lu Cheng said with amusement. Fighting Yimo is a fight between the weak and the strong. What's the point of competing with Sanjiang High School Martial Arts Club? Is it the pleasure of punching a kindergarten or kicking a nursing home? Or is it bullying elementary school students? Bullying elementary school students is quite interesting, really. Kai Zongming thought for a while and said frankly. While talking, they arrived at the guest team's seats and sat down. Cheng, were you speaking from your heart to Talker just now? Yan Zhika leaned close to Lu Cheng's ear, lowered her voice and asked with a smile. Cuckoo, you know me best. Lu Cheng chuckled. I'm belittling him strategically and attaching importance to him tactically. Chu Hui has entered the dance stage and has improved his supernatural ability to fly. Compared to before, he has changed fundamentally. He was able to defeat an 8th pin dance stage fighter before, so now he's definitely harder to deal with. That's right, that's right. Yan Zhika first agreed in a low voice, then turned her eyes and smiled. But there's still a big gap between you and him, especially when his supernatural ability is more restrained by you. Although Cheng couldn't fly, he could release his supernatural abilities of ice and fire. If Chu Hui really wanted to fly, then he would be shot down by a bow. Of course, this wasn't the only use of his supernatural ability to fly. Chu Hui's strange direction changes and use of space during battle were all beyond the level of a high-ranked Dan stage fighter. Since Coach Yen said so, then I'll reluctantly be proud of him. Lu Qing saw the referee enter the arena and stand in the center. He heard the broadcast announcing the two sides of the first round. Yin Xiangxi versus Yen Jika. Lu Qing reached out and held the girl's delicate hand, reminding her with concern, "You can't panic when you fight with him." "You can't panic either." Yen Jika smiled tacitly. In the past week and even in the past year, she and Sheng had watched a lot of Yin Xiangxi's videos. They had already summed up the way to fight against him. That was to not panic and not be pulled into his aggressive rhythm. She had to hold her breath and move around. Even if there was a certain chance, she wouldn't fight recklessly. She would wait until Yin Xiangxi was exhausted, and when the perfect opportunity appeared, she would seize it without hesitation and firmly launch a counterattack to kill him with one blow. Clear the stage with one pole. Don't be stubborn for long. The two squeezed each other's hands. Yen Jika stood up and bumped fists with Lin Ke, Li Mao, and the others. Then she walked to the stone steps unhurriedly. The boos became louder, mixed with a lot of flirtatious whistles. The atmosphere in the stadium was heating up again. Step by step, Yen Jika stepped onto the arena. She saw Yin Xiangxi from the corner of her eye, who was already in position. He was a handsome boy with a straight beard. He looked thin and reserved, but in fact, he was crazy and aggressive. Yin Xiangxi's gaze was also involuntarily attracted by her. He only felt that his opponent was bright and beautiful. Her starry eyes tugged at his heartstrings, making him unable to be ruthless. He instinctively wanted to pay attention to his demeanor and show his gentlemanly side. He shook his head and suppressed the ripples in his heart. Ferocity was brewing in his heart again. Sometimes, being handsome and beautiful was equivalent to being born with a supernatural ability. The supernatural ability to charm. When Yen Jika stood properly and got into her stance, the referee looked at the clock. After a dozen seconds, he raised his right hand and said, "Talk time starts now." This match, which determined who would advance and who would be eliminated, had officially begun. If Songqing University won, Songqing University would follow Shanbei University into the national competition, while Songqing University would have to start all over again. Yin Xiangxi took a breath and didn't say anything. He just stared at Yen Jika with a dangerous look. Was this the legendary killing with a look? Yen Jika wasn't scared or nervous. Instead, she inexplicably wanted to laugh. She remembered Cheng's ridicule. Two people would become more and more alike in some aspects after being together for a long time. The girl stopped thinking about it, ignored his gaze, and focused on adjusting her state. At the end, Yin Xiangxi suddenly opened his mouth and said with a smile, "Don't worry. I won't be too harsh." Did he mean that he didn't need to use his full strength to deal with her? Was he trying to provoke her by being frivolous? As this thought flashed through Yen Jika's mind, the referee waved his right hand and announced loudly, "Start." "Humph. You've been led astray by my brother. You've learned to be silent for 3 minutes before saying something bad at the end." Yen Jika thought for a moment and didn't get irritated. She swayed her waist and walked around Yin Xiangxi with light steps. Like a climbing mountain goat, she was nimble and balanced, not giving her opponent a chance to get close to attack her. She took advantage of the gap and suddenly moved to her opponent's side. She raised her right arm and punched down with a clenched fist. Yin Xiangxi didn't try to parry. He tightened his thighs and gave her a side kick, faster and fiercer. Bam! According to this trend, Yen Jika would be kicked directly before she could hit her opponent. She calmed down, suppressed her impatience and panic, and adhered to her original fighting style. While Yin Xiangxi was kicking to the west, she swung her waist and slid to the back of her opponent. Her right fist moved diagonally, and under the explosive force of her shoulder, she smashed towards her opponent's temple. Bam! She lowered her waist and followed up with her left fist. Two peaks piercing the ear. Xiangxi suddenly bent his waist, shrank his head, and leaned back quickly. At the same time, he raised his elbow and was about to hit Jika's lower abdomen. No parry, just one hit. Jika didn't take advantage of this dangerous opportunity. She suddenly dispersed the force in her arms and jumped back. She took a few steps back lightly and harmoniously and quickly widened the distance between them. After a few moves, she gradually became familiar with Xiangxi's fighting style. No longer nervous and flustered, she strictly followed the plan made before the competition. She continued to move around. If she couldn't hit her opponent, she would immediately retreat. Bam, 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 bam. Lu Cheng was a little worried when he heard the intermittent sounds on the field. Although he knew that the referee was a senior of high dance stage and would be able to stop the attacks of two professional ninth pin fighters, he still couldn't help but worry that Jika would be hurt. On the other hand, Chu Hui, who was sitting in the home team seats, didn't look good. His expectation of a quick victory was ruined from the beginning. Didn't they say that Jika lacked actual combat experience? Didn't they say that girls were easy to panic? Why was she so experienced and clear-headed? She didn't fall into Xiangxi's rhythm at all, making him unable to use his strength. In this way, Lin Ke won't consume enough energy, and I won't be able to face Lu Qing in good condition. Should I use that move? Just use it. Anyway, I'll be able to advance if I win this match. I never thought I'd win against Shanbei next week. After a while of moving around, Jika noticed that Xiangxi's attacking momentum had decreased and he was obviously impatient. She immediately had a plan. Once again, she approached her opponent's side and visualized the scene of a mighty avalanche in her mind. She shook her shoulders and slightly raised her right arm, as if she was about to attack. Bam! Xiangxi, who was a little anxious, once again gave a fierce side kick. At this moment, Jika bent her spine and forcibly changed her center of gravity. She pulled her body and slid behind her opponent when he was standing on one foot. Chapter 339. Bam! As soon as she got behind Xiangxi, Jika exerted all her strength in her shaking shoulders. She shook her right arm and stabbed at Xiangxi's temple like a big gun. Standing on one foot with his back to the enemy, Xiangxi was in a precarious situation. It seemed that he had nowhere to run. At this critical moment, his courage did not diminish. He bent his spine like a bow and forcibly pulled back his left leg, which had missed the kick, and swept it backward. He leaned his body forward and took advantage of the momentum to avoid Jika's fatal blow. He still didn't make any move, just one move. However, this time, Jika didn't continue to dodge like before. Instead, she resolutely took advantage of the momentum of her right arm's missed attack and jumped to the back of her opponent again. Taking advantage of her position in the center of the circle, she dodged the sweeping whip kick in time. Now that she had sensed her opponent's impatience and seized the perfect opportunity, she wouldn't hesitate to counterattack and kill him with one blow. One pole to clear the platform. Bam! She kicked out her right foot at Xiangxi's supporting leg. At this point, Xiangxi was already at the end of his rope. He had no choice but to throw himself forward and roll like a lazy donkey. Jika stepped on the ground with her right foot and slid closer. Then she kicked out her left leg at the opponent's chest. Bam! Xiangxi barely raised his arm and took the kick. Bam! 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 Jika visualized the scene of brutal blizzard and kicked out her legs, one faster and harder than the other. Bam! 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 Lying on the ground, Xiangxi couldn't exert his strength. After blocking 3 kicks with his hands, he was kicked away completely. Then Jika jumped forward and kicked at his throat. First round, Jika wins. The referee glanced and shouted. Yes. Jika was so excited that she turned around and waved her fist at the guest seats. Then she saw Lu Qing jump up and hit the table with both hands. He was even more excited than she was. Who would have thought that he could beat Xiangxi like this before the match? Things would be much easier if he could find a way to restrain his opponent and strictly execute it. Trash. Chu Hui swallowed the anger and grievance in his throat and did not curse out loud. Previously, he had pinned so much hope on Xiangxi, thinking that it was quite possible for him to quickly become Songqing University's substitute. In the end, not only did he not win quickly, but he also lost to his opponent. How were they supposed to fight? His plan was ruined from the very beginning. He could only pray that Lu Qing and Lin Kei's injuries were more serious than he had expected. Go, do your best. Chu Hui patted Luo Hei's shoulder weakly. Hopefully, he could exhaust Lin Kei a little more. Luo Hei stood up. His tall and broad stature was indeed a good material for practicing martial arts. In the ring, Yan Zhika, who had calmed down, realized that the muscles in her legs and feet were tight and sore. Her physical strength was close to the limit. Guerrilla fighting required high-speed movements, timely direction changes, and nimble footwork, which consumed a lot of physical strength. Yan Zhika and Xiangxi had fought for several minutes, and at the end, they had even used 24 blizzard strikes with the help of the yin-yang twist, so it was normal for them to have such a reaction. She rested her hands on her knees and gasped for air. She saw Luo Hei stride past Xiangxi, who had just left the arena. He should be able to exchange a few more moves. Behind him are my brother and Cheng. They all look like they want to fight. Well, it seems that I don't have to force myself. While thinking, Yan Zhika, who had slightly recovered, straightened her back, turned around, and walked to the edge of the ring. She left the arena along the stone steps. The referee looked at the stunned Luo Hei and activated his Dantian force. Second round, Luo Hei wins. I won. Luo Hei stared at Yan Zhika's back in a daze, as if he was dreaming. Lin Kei slid down his zipper, took off his jacket, high-fived Lu Qing and the others, and walked to his cousin calmly. I won't say good luck. Yan Zhika pursed her lips and smiled. She raised her hand and bumped her cousin's fist. What she meant was that he didn't need to cheer for such a high-level opponent. Just right for recovery. Lin Kei answered briefly and approached the stone steps amidst the boos. Behind him, Lu Qing supported Yan Zhika and chuckled. You fought so well. This was the joke after losing to Peng Liyun in the last round. It was the difference between you fought so well and you fought so well. Then I'll accept the compliment. Yan Zhika's eyes curved and her voice rose at the end. While climbing the ring, Lin Kei's body emitted a crisp sound, as if a rusty machine was starting to turn. It gradually smoothed out and climbed to the peak. When he stood in front of Luo Hei's, his whole body was as deep as the sea. His momentum seemed to have solidified. Suddenly, Luo Hei's felt that he had turned into a little white rabbit in front of a tiger. He was inexplicably frightened and nervous. He couldn't help but think of the scene when Lin Kei fought against Shannon. That terrifying posture of using the dance stage explosion to attack at the beginning of the match. Is he scared before the fight? Just as the thought flashed through his mind, he heard the referee shout loudly, "Start." Luo Hei's didn't dare to stay in the same place. His footsteps were steady and fast. Lin Kei straightened his knees and shot out like lightning. Although he didn't use force concentration, he was as fast as thunder. In just a few steps, he had closed the distance between him and his opponent. Luo Hei's immediately changed his direction and tried to go around to the side. However, Lin Kei's center of gravity swayed and they moved almost at the same time. Faster, more nimble, and better at changing directions. Dozens of seconds later, Lin Kei grabbed his opponent's tail and threw punches and kicks, forcing him to dodge in a hurry to avoid a head-on collision to avoid being hit by the meteor force. In a flash, Luo Hei's kept dodging, but Lin Kei didn't panic. He condensed his qi, blood, spirit, and force. Boom! His Dan qi gushed out and his left leg expanded. He suddenly stomped down and followed up with a plow. Bang! With a muffled sound, the ground cracked and debris flew, as if a volcano had suddenly erupted. Luo Hei's lost his balance and his body swayed. Lin Ke seized the opportunity and took a step forward. He swelled his temples and quickly swung his right arm. A meteor streaking across the sky, he threw a punch at his opponent. Luo Hei's couldn't dodge in time. He struggled to maintain his balance and raised his arms to defend. Bang! The meteor fell to the ground and exploded like a bomb. The shock wave swept out. Luo Hei's felt the shock spread to his whole body, rolling his qi and blood and trembling his muscles. Bang! 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 Lin Ke quickly swung his arms and continued to attack. Bang! 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 Luo Hei's was punched several times in a row. He directly collapsed on the ground and kept retching. The referee raised his right hand and said, "Round 3, Lin Ke wins." Round 3, Lin Ke wins. In the home team seats, Chu Hui blacked out and covered his face. He only felt that the future was bleak. Luo Hei's was defeated in such a short time and didn't cause much damage to his opponent. In this way, it would take him a lot of effort just to beat Lin Quebec. How could he deal with Lu Qing behind him? This bunch of trash. He gnashed his teeth and cursed silently. He walked out of the seats and walked to the arena with a gentlemanly manner. No matter what, he had to fight first. While walking, he suddenly froze and stood there in a daze. At the edge of the arena, Lin Ke put away his stance, turned around and walked down the stone steps. Walk down the stone steps. Walk down the stone steps. What is my brother-in-law thinking? Lu Cheng was at a loss. Beside him, Yan Zhika was also at a loss. After a while, she muttered to herself, "My brother may want to leave you a more complete opponent." What do you mean by more complete? Lu Cheng's mouth twitched and he almost laughed. He instinctively walked forward. He only shook the girl's hand and forgot to high-five or fist bump with the others. When he met Lin Ke on the way, Lu Cheng smiled and said, "You're putting me under a lot of pressure." If he lost, he would have to say goodbye to the national competition. Lin Ke looked at him indifferently and said, "I have to stop before I go too far." That's too far. Lu Cheng didn't have the strength to complain, but he vaguely read the other meaning in his brother-in-law's eyes. If we can't even beat Chu Hui, why should we participate in the national competition? Is he provoking me? Is my brother-in-law worried that I will be traumatized by the competition in Shanbei? Lu Cheng suddenly realized and laughed in a low voice, "Then I won't hold back. My brother-in-law is such an awkward guy." After a fist bump, Lu Cheng looked at the arena and stepped forward. "Fight Chu Hui alone? I'm not afraid of you." Chu Hui, who was standing in the center, seemed to be in an unbelievable dream. He was afraid that he would suddenly wake up. "I've painstakingly planned and prayed and looked forward to it so that I could defeat Lu Cheng alone in the end. But in the end, it happened inexplicably. After Xiang Shi and Hai Zhe both failed, I was in despair. Who knew that things would turn around and Lin Ke himself would come down? Good things really fall from the sky." He raised the corner of his mouth and could no longer hide the ecstasy in his heart. If God gives you a gift, you will be punished. Chapter 340. Lin Ke's desire to win was almost abnormal. If he could still fight, he wouldn't give up voluntarily. Based on the above 2 points, the reason why he voluntarily left the arena after defeating Luo Hei's was most likely because the influence of the dark poison force was much more serious than I expected. I really had to thank Fang Zhirong for getting the opportunity to challenge Lu Cheng one-on-one. A self-consistent chain of logic flashed in Chu Hui's mind, making him forget other factors and outlining an unconcealable smile. I hope Lu Cheng's internal injury is more serious than I expected. No, even if it's only to the extent of my speculation, today's victory will be mine. He fixed his eyes on Lu Qing, who was walking up the stairs step by step. Lu Qing stood in front of him with a slightly pale face. Smiling slightly, Chu Hui took off his top hat in a very gentlemanly manner, put it in front of his chest and bowed. Lu Qing made an obeisance, which was a response. The referee didn't give them any more time. He immediately raised his right hand and shouted, "Start." The last round of the match began. Hearing this, even though Yan Zhika was full of confidence in Lu Qing, she couldn't help but clench her fists and open her eyes wide. Chu Hui instantly flew up to a position a few meters above the ground, floating gracefully and leisurely, throwing out the black top hat in his hand. The hat fluttered and fell to the seats of the home team. As soon as it touched the ground, Chu Hui suddenly fell down, head down and feet up. His right hand clenched into a fist, like a huge stone smashing towards Lu Qing from the sky. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. His clothes clung tightly to his body, making flapping sounds. The momentum was hair-raising. Although the audience had seen this scene many times, they were still shocked, as if they were watching a blockbuster with special effects. Facing the attack from above, Lu Qing assumed a stance and stood firmly. He visualized the figure of a man with the head of a beast riding on a red dragon. Suppressing the violent heat that was beginning to swell in his body, he calmly clenched his fist and charged upwards. Bang! His fist hit the void and exploded a mass of flames that reflected the audience's eyes. Zhurong Force, supernatural ability of fire. The flames rolled out, and Chu Hui's falling figure suddenly stopped. He rose up again to avoid the aftermath in time, in case his hair and clothes were ignited and burned. He narrowed his eyes, not surprised by Lu Qing's response. He took a deep breath to withdraw his qi, blood, force and spirit, and then released them. Woo! As his body expanded, Chu Hui fell headfirst to the ground again. But unlike before, he spun quickly and turned himself into a drill that extended to the ground with his fist as the tip. The scenery around him shook weirdly, and even the air was affected. The combination of the explosion of the dance stage, the acceleration of gravity, and the terrifying rotation, flesh and blood tornado. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't use weapons due to the level restriction, Chu Hui's move would have been even more terrifying. Lu Qing maintained his previous stance. When the high-speed spinning fist was about to fall on his head, he suddenly stepped back, as if he wanted to avoid the sharp edge and hit his opponent's waist and abdomen. At this moment, Chu Hui's figure strangely changed direction from vertical to horizontal, turning the acceleration of gravity into his own kinetic energy. His fist spun quickly and hit Lu Qing. Lulan swore not to return it until it was broken. This punch was very satisfying for him. Not only did he use all the strength in his body, but he also made full use of the external force. The combination of the two forces and the spiral force was really powerful. This is the most powerful punch I've ever made since I started practicing martial arts. Chu Hui thought. He was excited to break all obstacles in his way. Lu Qing lowered his waist and quickly made a force concentration. Then he popped up his right arm. His arm swelled, and his 5 fingers pressed against his opponent's drill. Bam, bam, bam. The sound of collisions was continuous. The muscles and fascia in his palm bulged and blocked Chu Hui's right fist. His fingers glowed with a dark green color and kept colliding with the rotating edge. Chu Hui felt his most powerful punch was like hitting a steel plate. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break it or drill through it. No, even if it was a steel plate, it would be broken by my punch. Crack. Wearing a white martial arts suit with black edges, Lu Qing's feet pressed inward, creating a spider web that spread outward. However, his body didn't move at all. His right arm swung slightly and then pressed forward again like flowing water, firmly blocking Chu Hui's flesh and blood tornado. My most powerful punch was so easily blocked by him? Is the gap between him and me so big? A weak 6th pin fighter is so terrifying. At this moment, Chu Hui felt an inexplicable sense of despair. The rotation of the flesh and blood tornado slowed down. Lu Cheng's 5 fingers pressed down and was about to catch his fist. At this moment, Chu Hui bounced up and was pulled up by the invisible hand. He narrowly avoided being caught by his opponent. If he was caught by Lu Cheng and poured into the cold wave, he would lose. Once again, he floated several meters in the air. Restraining his frustration, he decided to change his fighting style. He didn't want to rush forward and attack fiercely anymore. Instead, he relied on the strange change of direction brought by his supernatural flying ability to fight. Another kind of hurricane blew up and distracted Lu Cheng, gradually exposing his unhealed internal injuries. With a swoosh, Chu Hui was like a fighter jet, diving towards his opponent. Seeing that both sides were about to collide, he suddenly pulled up his body, drawing a beautiful arc, strangely moved to the side, and with a bang, kicked the enemy's temple. Bam! Lu Cheng raised his left arm first, blocking the kick just in time. Bam! Chu Hui turned the kick into a stomp and kicked out the other foot. It was so fast that Lu Cheng couldn't react in time. However, Lu Cheng moved his arm in advance and blocked the attack in time. Bam! 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 Lu Cheng blocked and blocked. Although he seemed to be in a panic, he always rushed forward. However, he still defended steadily. All of a sudden, Chu Hui changed his direction without warning. He came to the back of Lu Cheng's head and kicked at his Yuzhen acupoint. His series of kicks just now was to mobilize his opponent and prepare for this move. Bam! Lu Cheng leaned his body and swung his arm backward, hitting Chu Hui's instep. Bam! 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 Chu Hui tried his best to stop abruptly with his supernatural flying ability, changing directions in a strange way, creating great opportunities again and again. Unfortunately, every time, he seemed to have fallen into Lu Cheng's trap and was always blocked by him. At most, there were some errors that did not affect the overall situation. How could he not feel hopeless? How did he block my attacks just now? Bam! Boom! His Dan Qi gushed out like a volcano erupting. Chu Hui felt as if his butt had been burned. With a bang, he broke through the airflow and set off a strong wind. In the strong wind, he made a half arc and miraculously appeared behind Lu Cheng again. Chu Hui's body came to a sudden stop, and his kinetic energy was transmitted. Chu Hui tightened his thighs in an instant and whipped his opponent's neck horizontally. Let's see if you can still react. Lu Cheng didn't try to dodge. He gathered and retracted his Dan Qi and turned his right hand into a whip, lashing out in the opposite direction. Bang! The whip struck the whip leg, creating a muffled sound. Chu Hui felt a sharp pain in his face. His body shook violently. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He flew up and hid in the air. For the sake of demeanor, he resisted the urge to rub his legs with both hands. Even this won't work? Chu Hui didn't believe it and launched another attack. With the help of his supernatural flying ability, he made 2 consecutive explosions. However, Lu Cheng still defended him so well that he couldn't create a chance to win. Whoosh! 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 He floated up, gasping for air and feeling the exhaustion in his body. Since the beginning of the fight, he, who was not good at physical strength, was quite tired. Lu Cheng, on the other hand, was breathing evenly and only sweating a little. How could he continue the fight? Chu Hui felt desperate again and almost didn't want to attack. His internal injury hadn't healed yet. His internal injury hadn't healed yet. His internal injury hadn't healed yet. Chu Hui kept telling himself as if he was hypnotizing himself. Yes, his internal injury hadn't healed yet. If the intensity of the fight was maintained for a while, it would affect him and give him a chance. Chu Hui took a deep breath and made up his mind. He started to visualize and run his supernatural ability to stimulate the essence and blood in his body. The familiar feeling of power spread. Chu Hui's face turned red and blue. Finally, he stabilized and his body seemed to expand. He returned to his peak state with the help of the secret method. Come on, let's fight until we run out of ammunition and see who will win. Lu Qing raised his head and glanced at him. He shook his head slightly. What do you mean? The doubt flashed through Chu Hui's mind. He turned into a fighter jet again and swooped down. At this moment, Lu Qing arched his back, shook his arms, and swung his wrists, throwing out a ball of crystal white cold light and crimson-red tyrannical flame. Boom! The cold light and the flame shot out and collided with each other in front of Chu Hui. White fog filled the air and slightly blocked his sight. In the fog, Chu Hui suddenly saw a figure fly up and jump several meters high. Lu Qing. His pupils shrank to the size of needles. He found that the enemy had jumped to a higher place than his current position. After the shock, he was overjoyed. Chu Hui couldn't believe his eyes. Is Lu Qing stupid? Why did he give up his advantage and fight me in the air? If I can't win, I might as well buy a piece of tofu and kill myself. Another pie fell from the sky. Chu Hui was about to change his direction when he saw Lu Qing make a gesture with his hands. His expression became solemn. Army. A deep voice came. Chu Hui's body shook and immediately fell into the thousands of soldiers and horses. He was frightened by the iron-blooded evil spirit. 9 words formula, army, formula. Lu Qing jumped down and grabbed Chu Hui's shoulder. He poured frost force into Chu Hui and pressed him down to the ground from the air. Whoosh! The sound of wind entered his ears, and Chu Hui woke up. However, the cold had already entered his body and he could not break free. He could only watch as he was about to crash into the ground. You'll die like this, won't you? Just as he lost his courage, he felt the momentum of his falling body suddenly come to a halt, and he landed lightly on his back. Lu Qing took back his hand and straightened his body. He didn't attack again. Chu Hui was frozen and couldn't move for a while. Round 5, Lu Qing wins. The referee didn't hesitate. The final result is Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Chu Hui immediately woke up when he heard these words. But he felt like he was still dreaming. If Lu Qing had used the last attack at the beginning, he wouldn't have been able to defend himself. Then the question was, why did we fight for so long? In the midst of his confusion and despair, he saw Lu Qing smile at him and say softly, I'm sorry. It's interesting to fight with a supernatural flying ability. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.